Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me is a fellow Predator aficionado,
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
I had nothing way prepared there. I was going to insult you, but then I thought it would go nice.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you're nice once in a while.
You need to give me a reason to be, Adam. Come on, it's a two-way street. Welcome to 2026. Not our first episode recorded in 2026, but our first episode released in 2026. How was your holidays, Adam? Any cool
That's pretty
Alien
good.
and Predator goodies?
I bought the books for myself, so the last two Alien books, Cult and Perfect Organisms. So little gift for myself there, but we could always use a bit more Alien and Predator merchandise. I don't think there was too many new things around later last year, so hopefully we see some more.
Indeed. And we have actually recorded a review for Perfect Organisms, so that's on the schedule over the next couple of releases. I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm glad.
Oh, thank you. Well, how was yours?
It was fine. I didn't really get any Alien or Predator stuff this year. I did treat myself to the Avatar comic omnibus and some Stargate bits and pieces as well. But no. The problem is, as adults, where we could just buy things when we want, I find Christmas and gift giving bits to be hard to pick for myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm still scoping out like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all that.
So, first episode of 2026, the last thing we recorded in 2025. What was it, Adam?
We had another big interview, returning guest, actually, the director of Predator Badlands and co-director of Predator Killer of Killers, Mr. Dan Trachtenberg. And this is the first time we've had a director of a theatrical film return on our podcast. So it was a real treat to have him back. We went for quite a while here. I believe the edits trimmed down to about 2.5 hours, but we went for about 3. And it was a great discussion, and we really appreciate Dan coming on and being willing to chat with us nerds about all things Predator.
Indeed. And that's the thing. This, the initial sort of temptation is to call it an interview. It was a discussion. Dan, I think we get on really well with him, and it's really cool that we can be so honest with each other and have a good, genuine back and forth and a discussion. And I genuinely love talking to Dan, and he always seems so interested in. He asks us, just as much as we ask him. He's interested in our opinion about things, and it's really nice to actually get to speak to somebody who is so interested in our interpretation of things, our wishes for things going forwards and stuff like that. So yeah, it's genuinely a pleasure talking to Dan and really appreciate it. But shall we shut up and let him talk?
Yes. So without further ado, Dan Trachtenberg.
So welcome back to the podcast, Dan. You've had a busy couple of years. I think it's fair to say, with both Killer of Killers and Badlands, both of which resonated with a lot of the fandom and the critics. It's been a good half a year since Killers. You've put a couple of months between Badlands and now. Now that you've had that distance from the films, how are you and the studios feeling about them? Did they hit expectations? And were you happy to get a UK audience clapping at the UK premiere event?
Yeah, I reminded everybody, Ellen Demetrius, mainly right before the premiere in the UK, to set their expectations accordingly. Because I remember, I think, Adam, were you at Comic-Con of Prey, the Comic-Con Prey?
Yeah, I went to that one.
Which was, I'll never forget, one of the greatest moments of my life. I mean, I've never felt a crowd reaction to something I've been a part of, made. I've never had an experience like that. It was incredible. It was emotional. for me. And then we went to the UK for Prey, where you were there, Aaron, and it's a totally different experience. It's not. It's way less interactive, way less audible, and I started to get like really worried about the movie. Um, and then I spoke to some folks and heard that this is very typical for a UK audience. Um, so I made sure to tell Al and Demetrius, like, don't expect this is going to be a certain kind of feeling. Don't imprint an overall impression of what the movie's reception is going to be based on the way this crowd reacts during the screening. Um, and so it was definitely nice to hear clapping at the end, and was a great time, and all of the screenings that I was able to take part in were really terrific. And yeah, I think everyone is thrilled with the year that we had, and uh it there was a period, I'll say, for Badlands. Killers, there was a real lovely confidence throughout the entire making of it, just because there's the feedback loop is so much richer. We're starting in previs land, which things already feel and look cool, and then it just gets cooler and cooler looking along the way. Badlands, on the other hand, there were some moments. There was a moment halfway through making it that I had a realization, which was, and I would confide only in my producing partner, Ben Rosenblatt, um, that like we could be making Howard the Duck right now, you know? Like the people making Howard the Duck, A, George Lucas had come off of Star Wars, and they built these incredible duck suits and had ILM doing visual effect. They were probably like, this is so, and Badlands, we felt like we're doing something crazy. We're hoping that people, and I had a feeling that people would respond to um, being bold and enjoying a kind of story they haven't, in a way they haven't. And I realized that's what they felt like making Howard the Duck. That like, and they were all very impressed with the I'm sure making Howard the Duck with what they were making along the way in terms of the technical craft of things. Um and I got terrified. I got real terrified. And it took us a long time to figure out lots of different things in the movie, from technical to creative. Um, and so the warm reception to the movie um, is a real relief, more than any other sensation. You know, a relief, and validating, and great, and yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
Now, was this your first theatrical film since
To
10
Cloverfield
Cloverfields?
Lane, yeah, yeah. 10 Cloverfield Lane was the first movie I made, and that was theatrical. Uh, and then, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
everything I mean, Prey, in my head, I
Should
was
have been.
making
Yeah.
it for movie theater experience. Um, but in terms of the like campaign and screening situation, it had been a while since Cloverfield Lane, with Badlands.
Mm.
Yes, I'm sure that was quite a thing. Like, I remember going to Hall H for my first time to watch that preview footage, and I had never been in Hall H before, and I had only dipped my toe in Comic Con when I went out for Prey. But it was wow, that was something there for sure.
I wish you could have been in Hall H in the glory days, because it was a very magical experience. I treasure the years that I went as a fan to Hall H. And but that screening, that moment too was really cool. And um, there was a l- a long period of time, or I wouldn't should say a long period of time, but we kept on weaving in and out of this feeling of, and worked on a cut that started with him crashing on the planet, with Deck crashing on the planet. and did not include that opening in its place. What it did was it started with him crashing on the planet, and then throughout the experience, we would flash back to things in the opening. The benefit of that version was you not being ahead of the story and you being very curious about who Deck is and what's going on, and then us learning about. So every time he taught, like right now in the way the movie functions now, every question that Thea asks, we already know the answer to, and he's filling her in. Of course, it's different to like hear him state it and feel the emotional resonance of it, but there was something really cool about that cut. However, not bringing people in uh with the opening and the reception at Comic-Con really helped affirm, and kind of every time we screened the movie, it was hard to give up that entry point into the movie to like understand it. If it was humans, we may have done that structure of the movie with him landing on the planet first, but to really feel what he's feeling and have it all be emotionally charged, and also enter the world in a more Yautja aesthetic, and um for hardcore fans of the franchise to make sure they know the movie's still rooted in um ferocity, and not just like the fun adventure that the movie is more on Genna, felt like we had to do it. But that Comic-Con screening really helped affirm um what we were doing, and it was nerve-wracking because the effects were not done, and I know more than any other thing, doing, computer generated effects in a Stan Winston quote unquote franchise. People are going to have laser focus on what we're doing, so I was really nervous about that, um yeah, that was a great screening.
Yeah, Adam came back buzzing from that one, which was great. And to be fair, just to go to the cultural thing again, Dan. The London one that you did, MCM.
Yeah.
I uploaded the footage of the panel to our YouTube, and all the comments were about the crowd, as in the enthusiasm that the crowd was showing in the British muted way. It was just all
Right.
comments about what a bunch of Mardy Mardy folks sat in here. But yeah, no, seeing we got an extended version, didn't we? Because we got the tree attack.
Yeah, you had 17, like the Comic-Con was 13 minutes. We said 15, but it was 13. And then the Comic-Con UK was 17, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um
I think that
but
was as a marketing choice. It was fantastic, mate. It was
mm,
such a good way to hit the ground running, because obviously it's entirely new framework for a Predator film, and to just go in with here's 20 minutes of the film, here's what we're about, here's Predators doing cool shit, and
mhm.
generating the buzz. Yeah, it was fantastic choice.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
So let's rewind now.
Yeah.
So we're nerds. We love about the development of the film and how everything
Yeah.
comes together and the alternate bits and pieces. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so rewind all the way back now.
Mhm.
So when you joined us before to talk about Prey, you'd
Mhm.
mentioned one of your earliest ideas for that film was a concept in which Naru would have teamed up with Feral, or the Predator as he is in that early version in your head,
Yeah.
to take on the Fur Trappers together. Thea and Deck's journey seems to be an extension of that early concept that you had for Prey. Was that something that was still in your head then when you were sitting down with studios to talk about where to go with the franchise? Was it born of that early version of Prey?
In a funny way, it it more comes from trying to zigzag around that. Um, like when 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 I started honing in on Predator as protagonist in the way that it is in the movie, um, I was really afraid of like starting out with lofty goals and then ending up with a movie that we've seen before, and thinking a lot about that, what you're saying, that notion of where I started with Prey conceptually, and also AVP and the team up with Lex, and I just realized that as soon as we put another character in the movie and Predator's working with them, it's gonna start to defang the whole enterprise and turn it into um, an entry we've actually already seen. So really was trying to like avoid, rather than like, now I'm gonna have him team up with something like I thought I was gonna do. Right. It really was, how can I have him have relationships in the movie, and eventually, like, I love the idea of him forming, um, you know, a band of misfits like him, a band of outsiders, but not have it feel like he's not actually the protagonist. Um, and once again, that's sort of what fueled the opening, and making sure we were emotionally rooted so much more in his story, and having um his partner, throughout the movie, one of his buddies throughout the movie being someone like Thea, that is not human, that is robotic, um, and then on his back, and all those things that make it more unusual, um, but allow him to still feel like the driving force for the narrative.
Mm. Were you surprised that Studios was so on board to go with, two of your ideas straight off the bat?
Killers
Yeah,
and Badlands.
yeah.
I'm kind of the reason why we did both at the same time was I did not feel like they were going to say yes to either of them. So I was sort of pushing them forward and thought one would catch wind and the other would fall apart once we got further in and a budget came or whatever it was, like, oh, that's going to go. And like, and I didn't want to wait. And I really loved both ideas so much. And so um I was surprised. I'm more surprised in retrospect, looking back and realizing just how crazy. Because at the beginning, when the idea felt amazing, when you first think of something, it feels so much cooler than when you're like you've been working on it for a while. And so
Mm.
when I first thought of it, I was like, I was just the that there was a lot of wind in my sails with the idea, and I was like, they'll be crazy not to make this. This is such an awesome movie. And now I realize, no, they were crazy to make it. Um, and I'm very thankful that
But
they did. Yeah.
it's funny that you say that they'd be crazy not to make it, because both are concepts and ideas that the fandom has been crying out for a long time. You know, animation, just as a vague word summarizing, the type of film, but fans have been wanting animated Predator things because of the stylized nature that you can go with it. They've been wanting the anthologies, which was a natural extension of Prey. And
Mhm.
I think one of the most it's hard to really judge actual vocality online, but one of the things we heard after Prey was, "Can we have a film where the Predator wins?" And
Yeah.
Badlands is that film. So they both feel like natural things that the fandom's been going, "We've wanted this for ages. We want to Prey for ages." A period piece. So it's like they were zone, actually in tune with, or
And
you
that,
more
by the
specifically, with
way,
pitching the stuff.
credit where credit's due. That is thanks to AVP Galaxy and me being on the forums. That the notion of how come the Predator never wins, when stuff for Prey was coming out, when the first poster or whatever it was, and there's a lot of sentiment about, well, it's a girl and all that, but then there's also the like, she's gonna beat the Predator, so stupid. Like, how come the Predator never win? Like that thing, that has been on the site for a while. Um, that really is what seeped in and was like, yeah, we that should happen. That should happen. But no, so
So,
yeah, thank you guys for the inspiration.
oh, of
Oh,
course.
Yeah.
So Badlands does many things that set it apart from the other Predator movies. And the cinematic introduction of a developed Predator language is absolutely one of them, as well as it being spoken so much throughout the film. You'd mentioned before about it being another thing you wanted to do with Prey, but had to move away from. Of course, we got the Comanche dub though.
Yeah.
Was this something that the success of the Comanche dub allowed you to take further in Badlands, or was there any hesitation about it initially?
There was no hesitation. Once again, I do not understand. It the main thing with the language is that it's just a logical extension of the idea of the movie. Like there's not really another way to tell this story, assuming that nobody wants to hear a Yautja, a predator speaking English. That was never, and I think because I know there were drafts of the 2018 Predator that had that, um, and I don't know if they ended up shooting it, but maybe they had, and it had been through, but that was never on the table. Um, so once you once you're sitting with that decision, then the next leap is, of course, um, and it is we're going to hear it speak in its native tongue. Um, it may help that Steve Asbell, who runs 20th, is like a massive Trekkie, like one of the biggest, and I think it partakes in a, a site and podcast like your guys is for start the way you guys are for AVP, he is for Star Trek. So um, that maybe helped us a bit. I think the notion of creating a character that would still be terse like Mad Max or Conan and that archetype um maybe was a comfort. And I don't know, it's this great, and Killer of Killers had crazy language um throughout, the way the movie plays with language and is subtitled, and all that. So it's a funny thing. I certainly didn't set out to make movies where like what's going to be so cool is that everyone's speaking different languages, but um here we are. And I think I do try to think of movies that rely less on dialogue to tell a story, that are more trying to use the action in the movie to drive the story forward, and so that lends itself to thinking of extended periods where the movie is silent, or periods where in the movie where you may not understand what's being said, or um I don't know. And then also being interested in authenticity, and which is why initially the feeling was for Prey to be all in Comanche, and for this to, when they're speaking out, it should feel like it is a culture that exists in another place. Um and Gosh, I'm thinking now, I'm trying to remember the exact sentiment, but I feel like, Aaron, you're someone who doesn't like you didn't like the word Yautja, and
No.
you were very worried about the space samurai thing. And
Yes.
the entire time I was like, is that am I making your the worst movie ever made for you, or is this not Sam is this
Okay.
zigging where you would expect it to be like I I I was very surprised.
That I liked it.
I was surprised that you liked it. No, but also after Killers, when that came out, I wasn't totally surprised. The studio was more caught off guard, but it was interesting that and there's buckets of fandom, or not buckets, but like there's a in the diagram
The
of
the Venn
fandom,
diagram,
there's
yeah.
a diagram, and at the very center are you guys and this site that is like the hardest of core. Um and 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 I don't know, there's consensus in this bucket. And then there's like, and the outside of that, perhaps a larger swath are people that like, I love Predator. I've seen a bunch of them.
Mm,
I love it. I love Arnie. Predator 2, I think Predator 2 is a bigger deal in the hardcore than it is for the I don't know, but maybe you guys have a finger on that pulse too. But there's people that love Predator, and then there's people that are like, I like sci-fi. Maybe I'd like, especially with the age of moviegoer now that didn't grow up with it and all that stuff.
Mm.
I think what was interesting was the hardcore Predator fan. We would have thought that the ending of Killer, being on Yautja Prime and seeing, would have been, oh my God, I'm seeing more of the culture. But actually, that seemed to be the part that you guys had the most. And once again, I can't remember everyone's opinion. I just remember that there being a lot of that's not our favorite part.
Mm.
Which also was in my mind in the opening of Badlands, of like the studio kept feeling like it's so important to have this sequence, and in marketing we were showing a lot from that because it's the most Predator, and I kept being like, guys, show me the Predator movie where they're wearing cloaks and the mask looks like that, and they're fighting with laser swords. It's actually not. I know it's the most in the movie.
Mm.
They're on a Predator planet, and there's other multiple Predators there, and it's the most filled with Predator stuff, but not stuff from as much from the other fit. Like this is that in itself is a thing that we're meant to be saying. This is new. You haven't seen this yet. And that was just coming because not everyone is so immersed in the world of it and all that stuff. And I think for you guys, for the hardest of core, that was where the most skepticism was actually in all the what you would think is the most Predator, the most Yautja, and even saying the word Yautja, which I thought people were going to be, oh my God, they're actually canonizing this thing that we say all the time, but not Aaron. Aaron doesn't say it all the time.
To be fair, I think most people had accepted Yautja other than Aaron
It just
a
was
long
Aaron. No,
time ago.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what was just so funny. But a lot of the things, and this may be in your questions later in terms of canonizing stuff, but I didn't. I don't look at any of the non-movie things, comics, movies, novels, novellas. What's the wiki? Anything that's on the wiki,
Xenopedia.
Xenopedia. That stuff, I don't see any of that as like, well, that's it, and so we're just going to portray that. Yet, like we need to name their culture. We need to name the stuff. So the first stop for me is, well, what has been done before? But by the way, like the thing that makes that a thing that you question should it be canonical is because an artist, after seeing the movies, said, I'm gonna make my interpretation of things. And now once it's been in the ether for so long, now we go, is that canon or not canon?
See, that's it's an interesting thing, Dan.
Yeah.
Because of Predator's 30 odd years old at this point, longer, and things seep into like not necessarily pop culture, but the cultural awareness, the geekdom awareness, the fandom
Culture
awareness.
of awareness. It's a very cool way to say it. Yeah.
So things that have been established so long, the Yautja has been around since 94. When was Prey out, Adam?
It was mid-90s, something like
Mid-90s.
that. Yeah.
So it's been around so long anyway. I've always been an outlier on that. But that's always because it was the exaggerated interpretation of it. If you go read Perry's novel, if you go read AVP Prey, it's nowhere near as bad as I would have you believe it to be.
Well,
based on
that's where the word came from, right?
The first draft of the script was called Yautja. And that was what I thought the movie was going to be called. I was very, very, very excited about, and I was at a weekend with some friends of mine, and we were playing a kind of version of Celebrity where you put pop culture things in a hat and you pick it and you have to get the password kind of to guess. I put Yautja in there, and they were like, "What is this?" And they are hardcore geek. We used to do a podcast, like like nerds, not Predator Alien specific nerds, but nerded out over Alien and nerded out over Predator, like outside of being like super dedicated, like as nerds get. Had, and they made fun of the word Yautja, and they were like, I was like, guys, that's the name of my next movie, that you're like making fun of. And so and I still sort of wish we had called the movie Yautja, but I was saying it was yeah, like when we are crafting the movie and you need a name or a thing or look to what's in the lore or ideations of what the culture is, you look to see what exists, and I go, I think Yautja is a cool sounding word personally, and so I think, and yeah, I feel like it had been around, so I feel like that's that. Now there's other things that are like, I don't love how that author or artist puts that idea forward, so I'm not going to hold that as what it is for us, and I'm going to say this is the case with how we view them and all that stuff. I personally do really like and I don't know how you guys want to say it, but a Mengi or a Menji.
Yeah. A
I
Mengi is what we go for.
I go Mengi too. GIF or GIF, I don't know, but I like a Mengi. But because I do think Yautja, I think in whatever it was meant to be Yaucha.
Yeah, I think Steve Perry said the guy who created the word said.
Yeah, we asked him about that, but Yautja's
But I
easier to
love
say.
the sound of Yautja. I was like, it's got to be that, for it to catch on, But the Amengi, that notion of the backstory and the stolen technology and the slave race that had to become so badass to rise up, and I do think that's very cool, and that's why there's I can't believe no one really put this forward. Because it wasn't in the trailer. The VFX weren't ready for the
the statues
teaser.
aren't in the trailer, were they?
They're not in the. I'm trying to think if they were in a later trailer though. I think they were in a later trailer. They just weren't in that teaser where that shot was much more prominent. I could be wrong. But the Amengi statues, and I thought this site was gonna eat it up. Didn't happen.
It's a much deeper cut than you'd probably expect.
Right.
Because the book that originated them is awful and not very well liked. But then Necker was the one that came back and did like all the gladiatorial stuff and really pushed that sort of idea on a piece of like a background lore on one of their figures.
Right.
Hang on.
The Alpha Predator, yeah. So they like doing little backstories on the back of their packaging.
Yeah, I love that guy. I love that guy. Yeah.
So
that's kind of that guy's sort of inspiration for Father.
Interesting. With the white dreadlock,
white hair,
and all that.
I mean, mainly for the white dreads, but yeah.
So that it's actually the Amengi really are only in those two things. The background sheet for this guy and a book not a lot of people like, with an entirely other interpretation of predators. Not the Yautja, but there was something else called the Hish in that one.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So that was a huge deep cut, Dan. And then when I saw you mention that in one of the other interviews, I was like, yeah, okay. Okay, Dan, you go deep diving. I love it. I was kind of good we didn't get to see more of them, to be honest, the statue.
Oh, yeah. Well, there wasn't a lot of places for him. But
yeah, of course. But... so, deep cut.
Deep cut.
Keeping on the language then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's how this started, was asking about the language.
Yeah. It's, we'll go all over the place.
I know. I'm with you.
I'm with you. So I guess this is more of a you as a director and logistics of filming kind of, well, directing performances, should I say.
Yeah.
You've got Demetrius. He's not only speaking a foreign language, in quotation marks,
right.
He's speaking an entirely made up fictional language that was created however many months, weeks before you sat down in front of the cameras. So I'm assuming here, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming you did not learn much of the language yourself.
No. Yeah.
As a director, does that become more difficult for you to direct those performances when it's, yeah, you might be able to get the intonation or some of the emotion, but if you're not knowing the language of the words, is that difficult for you to direct him?
It wasn't actually, and methodology wise, we would often shoot in English for a take and
Mm,
then move into Yautja, which was even more demanding for Demetrius. But not all the time. And no, I think, and maybe this is why I've ended up making these movies with language. I'm like, when I listen to music my whole life, I've never really pay attention to the lyrics. I've never really had, unless I'm being particularly focused on them.
mm,
Um, I've never been able to retain as I'm hearing a song, um, or casually listening to a song, what the lyrics are. Once again, unless I'm like interested and want to hear. And almost all the time when I read what the lyrics are, when I'm like, what is this song's, it ends up being exactly what I felt it was. By the way, I don't think this is a me thing. I don't think it's a Dan thing. I think this is the beauty of music and the beauty of communication, Um, and when I'm watching a scene, while we're shooting, I'm so much more instinctually and subconsciously keyed into rhythm. Like my not because I want like Edgar Wright, like an awesome like or Kevin Smith, like the dialogue has a certain kind of rhythm, but more like my my internal judge of for authenticity comes from when people's voices sound like when they dip here, come up here, like that feels true to me because that feels like I recognize that in life, or I recognize as like, oh, you're being theatrical, you're putting on something. It doesn't feel true, or
mm,
it feels more like um you're angry than you're annoyed, or but you're like the nuances I hear more in rhythm. And so frequently I will run out with a note for an actor and I'm like, "Wait, what was the line, your first thing you said?" I don't remember the words. I remember like where it came, what, like, I'm like, "Yeah, that. Then what if you said," and I'm still giving, I can be prescriptive about certain words to say or whatever, but it comes more from rhythm.
mm.
So and emotionality, and what's going on in their face. So for Demetrius and all that Yautja, no, it wasn't challenging. I mean, the challenge more came in the freedom as we were making the movie, in post. Like we could change things. Of course, we had to go back and reshoot and redo stuff. But while we were cutting and figuring story stuff out, we weren't limited to, well, this is what it is. We could say like, actually, now that we're changing this story idea, he should say this here instead. And that's the reason why I saw you guys ask Britain the thing in the trailer.
Mm,
Or actually, that really was just for the it was a really cool thing to say in the trailer. That was a shorthand for like what the story is and what Deck is going through. Um, and that was a scene where the VFX were like further along, so we just, you know, and his intonation felt like he was saying, "I am prey to nut," That's how that came about in the marketing. Um, but and I just so if anyone's gonna use anything as a Rosetta Stone to discover the Yautja language, wait till the movie comes out. Do not use that
don't,
trail.
don't don't use that seed.
Don't use that because that's the one outlier or one of the few outliers. Um, And by the way, for the language, and this I will say, once again, props to the studio. There was temptation. We spent much more money, millions probably, in holding on to the authenticity of the language. Um, it would have been much more cost effective if we had said, you know what, nobody know this is a made up language. No one knows any. Let's just he can he said which we can change the meaning of any word and it can still sound and feel great to an audience, and no one will know. Um, but it just felt wrong and weird to do that. It just felt funky, and really wanted to make sure that the movie had an authenticity to it. And going forward, if there's more that using the language, that we'd have a base of authenticity, and um, so we never took that bait, and we ended up. So sorry, the freedom that it allows us is both like really helpful, but also
Temptation.
really hurtful, because you can do what you can do anything that and like um and sometimes you get analysis paralysis, and that the options being that open allowed us to really fall down lots of potholes and rabbit holes and all sorts of stuff, but was ultimately way more helpful than hurtful, and um uh and so yeah, I do not really see shooting in a different language, at least
As a
for this
challenge.
movie in this way, as particularly challenging. It was actually
Mm.
more awesome, more of a boon for the movie.
What about the practical challenges in terms of how you're going to portray it? So, obviously in the film, you go for the mocap kind of approach to how the mandibles move, how the mouth moves, and stuff like that. Was that something you settled on straight away, or um, was the tests of like I know there's some fan made suits where the mandibles are actioned by your mouth, actually.
Yeah,
How did you explore that one?
we did. We shot a test. With Alec Gillis, because I really did not want the answer to be we got to do CG face. I was just scared, so terrified of that being the only way, and just felt like if there's another way we could do the face where it isn't what we've done on Prey, where we're looking. It was like if he's a runt, he's short. Like he doesn't have to be so tall. Um, then we don't need to put the head on top of the head. And um, and really pushed Alec to see if we could find a different methodology. And we did more of a foam latex on face, more of a makeup methodology, and we shot a test um, that was frightening. It was it was hilarious too, because the actor um, would be talking about like his favorite Thai restaurant in LA, but like in the Predator outfit, and he was, it was very unsettling, and very much made me want to see like The Office, but with because we were shooting the test in an office building, um, so
Please tell me
we were
that's
doing
going to be on the DVD, Dan.
yeah, that one maybe is not, but uh, yeah, I guess I should have considered that, but it was weird. Um, it just really didn't work, and Halleck was like, "I know, it's not working. I know." Um, and he really was the one to say, like, "I know what you want, um, and sadly, we can't give it to you this way." And so that became the stepping stone into um, just the facial capture approach. Um, Obviously, everything else, suit, but just the open cowl face. Um, and that was also incredibly challenging. We didn't I didn't know how challenging it would be while we were shooting it. I was expecting a Weta and they're going to deliver. It's going to be amazing. Um, but then we quickly realized when we were getting first tests back, you know, oh yeah, mandibles, no nose, no lips, teeth that don't let the mouth close. It was designed to be scary, on screen. Like Stan Winston made this incredible creature to be scary, and thank you, James Cameron, for the mandibles idea. For like 5 seconds at a time in the darkness, and you barely see. You see that face, and you go, "Oh my god!" Not really meant to articulate all the subtleties of of an emotional experience. So it was really hard to translate what Demetrius was doing directly onto the Yautja facial structure. And pronounce and certain words being pronounced were really hard. And eventually we found our keystone moments, and relief set in, and it all worked. But it was scary. Once again, Howard the Duck. It was kept on popping into my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, you all definitely pulled it off. I mean, that was the first thing that blew me away seeing that Comic-Con footage was, even as someone who's, passionate about practical effects, just how convincing that was and how quickly we were able to empathize with this emoting predator. And you still like you blend it up seamlessly with a practical suit and practical weaponry. And so there's still it is fused with practical effects, which is what I feel like a lot of movies in the early 2000s did really well, is they blended a lot of effective practical elements and CG elements, and it kind of felt like a return to that.
Yeah, I really think the difference maker was not having it be entirely not for the end result, it not being entirely CG, or not being the whole head is CG, and then the bodies, because like in the 2018 Predator, when you see upgrade, it's entirely CG, and it's CG alien flesh. And in Prey, a couple of the scenes where we had CG face was, or even body, it was CG flesh. And being as great as it possibly can be, but it's our face, the texture of the skin of the flesh was matching the suit texture, and foam latex suit creature texture is different than if you were to make the whole thing. You'd be trying to make it look better because you have complete control over all the texture mapping and all those things, but it still feels there's an artifice. It doesn't have the same thing, the same smell, the same feeling of creature suit. And so my favorite faces in the movie are actually in the spike pod sequence. That's where like when we get really close up on Deck's face, the texture of that face, it's suit texture. It is not. We could have made it even more lifelike and have more luminescence through this flesh, but no, it's the suit texture. And the dread, like that stuff, it looks sometimes kind of rubbery, but that's the aesthetic of what the suit is. So you feel like I'm looking at suit design, and yet it's doing emotional it's doing it. So all of it got to create this really new experience for the way we watch this kind of movie.
It was I so I'm a fan of practical effects. I always have been. But ever since District 9, and the prawns, I've been very curious to see how this would actually look for an alien or predator kind of thing. And seeing what Weta did with that face and how well it blended with the entirety of it, yet still looks so lifelike. Like the moments where he when Deck crashes on the planet, and you start to push up close to him, and he's slamming his fist, and you get a good look at the skin texture of the suit on his arm, and then you get closer on his face, and you start to see like the how would you describe this? The fluctuations of the skin in the mandible
Yeah, and
as he start.
I would say
Yeah,
the cheeks, the undulation of
yeah.
the yeah.
I was like, oh, Dan. Yes. Yes. It
Yeah.
was brilliant.
And boy, oh boy, I mean, this site amongst there's this site and there's certain YouTube channels that um I get really particular about mandible
Yeah.
placement.
The X and
Yeah,
the
the X or
folding.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so once again, I was like, I have no idea who we're pleasing, but we just had to do what was right for that, Um, it's worth saying too that it's not just Weta. That Weta really did the bulk um of the VFX in the movie, but bulk in this movie is, I mean, the whole movie's VFX. So we had a lot of other houses and teams working on stuff, and Weta was the first to crack the code on the face, but like the spike pod sequence was a company called ILP. Frame Store did a bunch of stuff. ILM did a bunch of stuff. Weta deserves so much credit, but not all of the credit. I just want to make sure
Okay.
it's said. Yeah.
They built the physical suits off of Alex Designs as well, is that
Yeah, Weta
right?
Workshop. So the suits were built. Alex designed, but also some Weta designers helped as well, and also our costume designer Nyla Dixon, who did Lord of the Rings and has an Academy Award for Lord of the Rings and worked with Weta way back then, has a huge part in the design, because the costuming for these guys is as much a part of it as
Mm,
their body shape and muscle structure and all of that stuff. So really was an effort between Alec and Weta Workshop and Nyla Dixon. Yeah.
Where did where did the top knot come from?
And
Because
and
I
concept artists, by the way, too, and like and
yeah.
concept artists. But go ahead. Sorry,
So
the top knot.
I have a huge soft spot for that style. One of the characters in the original AVP is nicknamed Top Knot because he's got him done up. It's
Mm,
one of the styles in Badlands, not Badlands, Hunting Grounds. Sorry. And
mhm.
so when I started seeing that creep into what we were seeing of this, I was like, yeah, okay, is this man in my
I
brain?
don't
Where did it come from?
I don't know. I think we were designing this before Killer of Killers, um, but I think it came from Viking aesthetic for me of wanting to find to find something different. I really I think I've said it with you guys before, but like, I mean, you know, for the longest time, everyone on AVP Galaxy, you know, was going really hard in debates about mandible placement and but the differences, I mean, other than the when, Predators, the designs did end up being quite different, but for large, and even in the comics, the variations of the look are so minute. And I really wanted to find something different that felt both ferocious and badass, but also had a nobility to it.
Mm,
Those are two things that are incongruous but congruous at the same time, that need to be there for us to feel like this guy is someone to be feared, um, but also respected, and that I could come to respect. And so I think Viking culture is that in my mind, very different than Renaissance feudal,
yeah, yeah.
where it's much more, you know, cultured and based on respect and on, there's something different with the ferocity of a Viking um and in my mind what the Yautja would be like. Um so I think that's a part of it. Um
Was it
yeah.
so? Again, you've got a pulse on the fandom, on the groups and the websites and stuff. So I'm sure you probably saw the discourse when we first got a good look at him about the
Mm-hmm.
holes coming from the top as well, rather than all the way around. So we know he spoke about him being a runt and malformed in some fashion and younger. So I think one of the things we'd like you to clear up is that them coming out of the head not being all the way around, is that a product of his youth? Is that a product of his, malformed nature? How did you envision that narrative reason
We
for it?
Alex sent over at one point the Triceratops comparison of, we did talk about father feeling more traditional and there being an age related evolution. Um so that's on the table. Here's the other thing that's worth saying, with you guys is like nothing is canon until we like whatever's in the movie is in the movie. And if we say something explicitly as this is the case in the movie, then that's obviously you should be receiving that as that's the case. But not until whatever I even say right now, if later on we're making a movie and realize aesthetically, you know what, actually it's gonna be better for the story if he always has or what or he oh my gosh, it's so much, like whatever it is, um, for for that movie that doesn't break anything inside the overall narrative. Of course, that would not be cool. But then it becomes canon, then it becomes a thing. So um I definitely think quite a bit about um, does it move as you age, or is it this is what made this is what makes deck looks this way because that's the way the deck looks, or that's um, them as this clan that they have this look, and um, so we'll see. I don't know yet until we've done the next thing. Where I said, but I get, but I that's all everything that people have put forth about that design choice is all in the mix, all in consideration.
That's cool
Yeah.
that you mentioned that Alec actually presented the ceratopsian comparison though, because I've seen that comparison made on like
hmm
Twitter. Some people were posting just how much their frills kind of grow out and change as they age. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
there's
I
a
mean,
word he used a word, some scientific word that I for whatever that evolutionary or whatever that is called that I don't
hmm.
remember. But yeah, there's a term for that. Yeah.
And before we move on to the next question, there was you mentioned people pointed out the prey to none bit in the trailer. There was another piece of dialogue in one of the trailers that I was curious about, where you have like this old male voice who's like commenting on the predator culture, and I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for that to be some sort of character in the movie. Is that just trailer voice, or is
Yeah, it was
Is
so
is that
funny.
Abe?
What's that?
Is that Abe?
No. Funny. Wait, how do you know Abe from the castings?
No, Ben said it in one of the set visits.
Oh
So
yeah,
Ben
because
Ben
yeah,
Ben said there was a separate male
yeah.
synth in the
When the
film who
DVD comes out, we can talk about that. There's a whole yeah, but when the DVD comes out, you'll see some scenes that were cut from the movie. Um, this is going to take us on a bigger tangent.
okay?
I don't want to
So
forget. I don't want to lose track of your question. So, the voice. No, yeah. I mean, it's a tricky. I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky movie to market. Um, and because people were very hesitant to just have um Deck talking the entire time and Yautja and people thinking, oh, is this whole movie subtitled? Do I want to see that? Of course, when they see the movie, it's great, but like in terms of marketing and what you put forward, and is that like for hardcore fans, or they be like, wait, it's talking the whole time? Fuck this movie, like once again, it's different when you experience it in the movie. Um, by the way, and I will say this is a tangent too, but the other thing that got picked apart was his face roaring at the end of the teaser. Um, and we never changed that face. I've seen people's feeling of that face. Oh, they did more work to it and whatever. That the reason why we put that in the first piece is because it was the first thing that was finished. I mean, color we did a little bit in color, but we didn't change um much. And that sentiment about his look was another real fright factor for me. because it was not at all present whenever we showed the movie. And it's another thing that made me ensured that we had to have our beginning. When I was talking about the different cuts to you guys at the beginning of the show here, because um, when you're drawn into the character, I think two things are at foot. A, when you're drawn into the character and feel the way you do about him, and understand the context for him, and see him up against Quay, and like you don't have the same feeling as being confronted in marketing. I've used to seeing a predator look a certain way, and then all of a sudden you see that, and you're like, wait, what? And the hair, the top knot, like, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's all you're only getting that. Like the marketing didn't really usher you into, um, and so and what you said, and that feeling is just not present at all. And then also, I think when you see deck in multiple lighting conditions and from multiple like you get a fuller picture of, oh, that's what the face is versus just that one straight
Mm.
on like I can't even I can't even imagine the way people perceive it because I just know that face very differently. I know the way that you guys do now that you've seen the movie a bunch of times than when you're just like seeing that showing that for the first time. So anyway, this is all going to say like the movie was very challenging to market, and of course we had Elle's voice to carry us through some of the other trailers, and so it was just it was we heard we someone's like, let's just do it as if we had this other you know mechanism for doing a trailer, um, and it felt really cool. So it was an international piece. It wasn't for it felt like I don't know about doing that for real. I think they were all expecting me to just shoot it down. They're like we tried this, and I was like it does feel cool. It does give it a gravitas um so it's not it's no character in the movie. It's no thing. It just um
Just
it's as if it's an older Wayland Yutani guy speaking, or someone who knows, or I don't even remember what was said. Um,
it was just like yeah, yours is a culture of violence or something
yeah,
like
right. So
that.
yeah, it's as if an old why. I mean, yeah, it's as if it's as if a um
Mm.
yeah.
So we got a couple lore questions for you now. So one of the things we're fascinated with are the different predator clans and their varying traditions. It's something that's been an excuse for things we sometimes don't like as fans. As with Predator, the
Totally.
upgrading is just something that this clan does where other clans disagree with it, or something that's caused intrigue, such as warring factions that we've seen in the comics. With the newer lore aspects of the Frozen Victors and Killer of Killers, and the culling of the weak in Predator Badlands, or hunting alone versus hunting in threes, etc., are these meant to be the same clan in both films? And do you see these aspects as unique to this clan? If so,
Oh yeah, this is another thing that was really I wasn't fully once again because I know the lore in my head of what and what people are only receiving what's put forth, but and okay, let me say this: I know the experience of watching. Karate Kid was my favorite movie growing up. Favorite movie of all time. Karate Kid. Love, love, love. Um, Karate Kid 2 comes out, and the not the very first scene because the very first scene was that scene that they cut from the end of the first one. But then you you hear that Allie broke up with Daniels with some football quarterback, and it's the most frustrating. Like that whole movie, he's trying to get with her and win her over and win her respect, and and at the end they're together and and it's wonderful and beautiful. And the second movie is like, oh, she just dumped him. It's like the most like fuck you movie. No, I don't. Um, so I say that to to put forward that I understand the feeling of like, wait, these characters just won their battle and now they get frozen and. But in my mind, first of all, in my mind, in for their culture, I'm not gonna and I don't know if I'm gonna say it's clan or the entirety or whatever. Um, but because everything is clan, like sorry, I'm trying to answer too many things at once, but like our our planet has lots of different people in it. And all of us have very different traditions and rituals nationally, you know, religiously, politically, tribal, what, like personally, like all of it, so different. So I could say anything is a part of Yautja, as we could say, this is a part of human culture, and yet it is not practiced by this group or that group or what. Um, so just I think the more the interest is like how widespread is this thing, and that will either be clearly stated in future installments of our movie or comic or novel or what or video game or whatever it is, or not, or never seen again, or um, but hopefully seen again. But in my mind, they see it as an honor. These people now get to live on immortally. Um, but much like a gladiator in the Roman arenas, that what great respect is given for these warriors that they get to compete in this thing, and we haven't really seen we of course we see Ursa frozen again, but there may be other rituals that go in between when you win and what have you. Um, so I don't think they're being I mean, from a human perspective, they're being from their perspective, they're not they're not doing something shitty to the champions. They're doing something that they should be grateful for in their minds. Um, yeah, I think I answered both things at
Yeah,
once.
no,
Right?
it's an
Yeah.
interesting element that we're super intrigued with as fans. I mean, I think Predators was the first movie to kind of dip its toe
Yeah.
into warring predator subspecies clans, whatever you want to call it, if that. But I mean, it spurred fan conversation. Some of these editions, even like the Frozen Victors thing. Like I've seen some fans saying, like, "Oh, would the Lost Tribe at the end of Predator 2 be pissed at this other tribe? Like, hey, we were like honoring this dude, and you guys capture him for your own shenanigans. Like, what's going on here?" So it's something that we definitely find intriguing as fans, is like the different ways different predators do things and the times they
Mm-hmm.
come into conflict or not.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Yep.
I okay. It's all sort of comes from, I guess, Bad Blood as a comic. This idea of the different,
Mm,
vastly different cultures and behaviors. And Dan, exactly what you were saying earlier about the diversity of humans as a human civilization.
yeah.
It's one of it's one of the strengths of the Predator as a franchise and
Yeah.
as a creature.
Yeah.
Well, should I say a character? Sorry, is they are so individualistic compared to like Alien,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely, it's a crux that we hang on to as fans to explain discrepancies and stuff like that. Um, but it's
I know
also,
what you mean as I read it all the time of like, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a bad blood. That's why he did that thing,"
mm,
or it's just that. But at the same time, how could you think of it differently? Like, I mean, the reason why is because in science fiction, you guys have heard me say this before about prey, but the aesthetic. But in science fiction, it's like Wookiees, Wookiee planet. They all look like Wookiees.
yeah,
Like every species, like the entire planet is one climate. Oh, snow planet. Go to
yeah,
Hoth. It's not a. It's one of the cool things about Pandora that I don't think has been fully explored yet, but I think Cameron considers it like, it's like it's a planet where it's like over here's desert, over here is jungles. Over here,
hmm
that's what planets with atmosphere that that sentient beings can exist in. Like that's usually the case. But in Star Wars and Star Trek, it's like one planet, one culture per the planet, one
yeah.
species lives there. Um, you know,
I
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Stargate, the
Hmm.
series,
Well,
and
you're about
one.
to get a whole new
Yes, yes,
yeah,
a whole new show.
yeah.
Just a tangent here because it's something that tickles me every time I watch it. But there's an early episode. Have you ever
I've
seen
never
Stargate?
seen I've
Okay,
seen the movie, but I've never I don't think
okay.
I've even seen one episode
Oh,
of the
Dan.
show.
Oh, Dan, I'm wounded.
Yeah.
There's an early episode in season one where they get sent to what they think is an entirely different planet, and she comes crawling up. They're in like an ice cavern. She comes crawling up to the surface, and the character looks around. She's like, "It's a goddamn ice planet. We're stuck on an ice planet. There's no signs of civilization anywhere." Turns out they're trapped on Earth in Antarctica. So,
That's great. That's great.
it's. I completely agree with you. I'm a Trekkie,
Yeah.
and I find the lack of diversity in the cultures in that to be frustrating at times. So it's one of the reasons I do like Predator, for that individualistic nature of them.
Yeah.
But I'm
But
kind
that
of
being said, here we go. But
well, no, it's not. It's not a but. What
yeah.
I suppose it kind of is,
No,
because
it can be a but by the way. It
well,
can be, it can be a but.
it's more about. I love Predators. I love Predators. The film, the
The
third
film,
one.
yeah.
Less said about the Predator, the better. But they both, they both rest on this idea of there being differences in cultures between certain elements of the clans.
Yeah.
But neither are resounding successes with the fandom, shall we say, to the point where I've kind of been like, stop trying to do bad blood, stop trying to do cultural differences. But now I'm really curious as to your take on something like that. Now that you've seen the discourse that people have had about the Frozen thing in Killers, and like the hunting in threes versus hunting in ones thing. I'm kind of curious. Would you be interested in doing something in a film narratively about that cultural differences between predators?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we'll leave it. Shall we
No,
leave it at
no,
that?
no. I mean, yes. What I, I I've said this a bunch, but like I'm just really cautious about overindulging in lore,
Mhm.
and
Because that could become too much about the lore and explaining things.
yes, and yet that stuff is fascinating and interesting, and it just, it's the right amount. It's like, it's just finding the right amount. That's definitely been in my mind of, yeah. It's definitely been in my mind, and there's a version of doing it and delivering it, and it's delicious. And there's a version where people are like, "What?" Like, once again, I always say, like, the Senate trade agreements, between, it's like, we don't need to hear that. And so, but yeah, I mean, yeah. But the short answer is yes, I am interested in perhaps narratively showcasing more of the way different tribes would relate and connect.
And even like you mentioned with the physical differences, like I also agree, like fans will get too wrapped up in the mandibles or certain physical features needing to be entirely consistent. Like when I first saw Feral Predator, like it took me aback, but I really got into it. And then the more I saw of it, and even the conceptual artist, Michael Vincent, coming out and explaining like, oh, this subspecies lives in this region and this is why he looks like this. Like
Mhm.
it does make things interesting from both a lore perspective, but also like it's not it's not super interesting if we just have the exact same design or like very subtle variations of it every time. Like I think that's what keeps it interesting, is having a new artistic interpretation. And Deck like struck me immediately just how he has this cloak, like even in the beginning that we see him, that he has like, or I guess it's more of a poncho maybe.
No,
But
but it is but we call that thing a cloak sometimes, and it made the movie. Even though you're right, it's somewhat, well, it doesn't really go down in the front the way that a
oh, okay,
poncho
so
would.
maybe a cloak.
It is gathered at his neck, but like, we had a whole thing where the movie his journey was meant to be, you're earning your cloak, um, and it came back in finally in the version you guys. But there's a long time because it was more stated up front, like Yautja, to earn that you have to go on this first hunt to earn your cloak, which I thought was a really cool notion,
Mm.
adding in that lore. Um, and the problem is that his invisibility is called cloak also. Sorry, that's what we were referring to, is he has to earn the invisibility cloak.
Mhm.
But for regular people that just that don't want, or even us, like, oh, because the cloak is so new, that was so new to their adornment in the franchise that people are thinking, oh, he's wearing a cloak. Oh, is he gonna get like a better cloak, or something, like, oh, then it's not the invisibility. Like all of it was like messing up the beginning of our movie, the narrative of our movie. So we had to like, and the end became like, wait, what cloak at the end, so we found a way to efficiently put it back in the film, thank God. Um, but it was really annoying that we had made these things um, that that are also called cloaks. Yeah. Anyway,
Man,
sorry.
see, the things you have to take into consideration, I
Not a
didn't even
poncho.
think of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a very striking look for him, and his mask too. Even though he
Yeah.
unfortunately loses it immediately, I thought it was just such a unique look for him there.
I actually think Quay's man. I hope when I don't know if more stuff will come out or whatever, but um, Quay's mask, I'm hoping to be gifted from Weta. So much cooler than Dex. I mean, you see it in the movie. He picks it up in the sand later. I mean, he's wearing it, of course, but it's not as featured in the movie, and it's actually my favorite mask of the franchise, or at least what we're doing.
Quay's mask.
I love Quay's mask.
Yeah.
It's just a more advanced, a more ornate version of Dex. It's similar structure, but
Yeah. I know some fans were thinking he would start wearing it at the moment where he comes back to the ship and finds it. And then I was kind of surprised to see him in the bone bison mask. But I guess that's more like in tune with him kind of, harmonizing with the planet, if you will, and all that. But
and being his own. I mean, that was that we really wrestled with it for both reasons. One, oh my God, what a cool mask. Um and I wanted to see more of it. And certainly there's some narrative sense to him doing that, but I, for whatever reason, I drew this hard line of like, a movie is not about him becoming his brother. It's about becoming the
Mm.
best version of himself. And it just felt like if he's putting on that mask, it's like the ultimate symbol of like, and now he is Quay. And the point is he becomes Deck of the Yautja, not Quay of the. So, and that may not have really hit everyone in that way, but I just couldn't emotionally do it, despite being so tempted and seduced. But even for the end, when he comes off, um, when it goes back to Yautja, Yautja Prime, or I don't know. Yeah, no, it is Yautja Prime. I guess we did put that for a
Mhm.
long time. We didn't have Chirons in the movie, and I was really on the fence. I was like, well, we refer to it as Yautja Prime, but maybe the planet is called something different. Once again, that was a moment of going to the lore and really going back and forth of like,
Do you do it? Do you not?
do we say Yautja Prime? We don't say Earth Prime or what, like
Oh, Dan.
I know that, but at the same time it would make things so clear for I don't know.
The normies.
So we did, but maybe you'll hear them one time refer to their planet as something different, and then more can be done in later movies with that. But oh yeah, when he shows back up in Yautja Prime, thought then maybe does he wear the mask? But once again, it's just like he's not meant to be. And also, I think of because like, oh, is Quay? Wait, if you could be back on that planet and then see that mask, one might think for a second, um, did Quay come back, or is Quay somehow there? Anyway, so
Fair.
yeah,
So we've established that I am not a huge fan of the whole space samurai thing.
yeah,
They clearly have a clear cut code. I'm never going to deny that. But honor, I just never see it. Now, when Prey came out and you had Tabe scream cheetah at Feral when he
yeah,
cloaks,
yeah.
and I love that, by the way. I've probably told you that before, but yeah, I love that.
I love that
And then
too. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah,
when Badland comes out, and this might be me reading into it, so this is why I kind of want your thoughts on what you were doing here.
yeah,
But I thought that the film was really, maybe not overtly, but to me it seemed like it was highlighting some of the hypocrisy of the idea of the Predators and honor. father telling Quay to going off his brother in his sleep. Dex jumps of logic in talking himself into allowing him to bring Thea along with him. The whole we hunt alone. No, you're not. You're a tool.
Mm.
Was that intentional on your part to highlight this hypocritical element of this accepted element of predator culture?
All things are true in terms of like. First of all, let me just ask you, in OG in '87 Predator, when he takes off his mask and he fights Arnold one-on-one, you don't think that's something that?
I don't see that as honorable, because I don't find the Predators as characters honorable. This idea of the superior
With that gesture,
technology. Well,
because
I find that to be more about.
yeah, why did he do it? Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
Well,
Yeah.
I find that to be more about Jungle Hunter being like, okay, let's see what you've got. Entertain me more than
Mm,
more than I respect you so much. We're gonna go equal grounds here. It's more thrill me. I find them to be a selfish culture. I find it to be all about. I joke about, they're all sat there streaming their hunts.
yeah,
That's how Warlord knows about how good Harrigan is or how good Dutch is, because they're vanity
yeah.
in their culture.
I'm more with you than not with you on that. I think the moment that you brought up earlier, the gun moment in Predator 2, is when honor is more introduced in because of course the end of Predator, him blowing, there's no honor in him. We're all gonna just blow up
Mm.
together now.
Well, even City Hunter, I'm going to kill all these thousands of folk in the city.
Right. But I think so. I like that both things are in the mix. When we watch a crime film, like The Godfather or Goodfellas, and understand the structure of what's in the mafia or a hitman movie, um, there there's a fascinating set of rituals, and there's codes of conduct within that group that, from one perspective, could be seen as honor filled and tradition filled or whatever, and from another perspective be like, what the fuck, there's no honor in killing somebody, you know what I mean. um and it's a culture that is vicious, um that selfishness is, which is why, oh, you're a runt, just no, you're not, kill him, like that's, there's no feeling there, um and yet there's a tradition to things. uh there's society. So once again, it's why, whereas Star Wars felt like a combination of fantasy and science fiction that's rooted in medieval feudal culture, to me the Yautja is more linked to barbarism, nomadic, brutal brutality, pirate, um that kind of, there's still some ritualistic traditions culture to it, um but uh I I like there being both things in the mix. I think there is cheating. I think um just being cloaked and just shooting missiles at things feels a little cheap, and like, what's the, but in the way that hunters on our, trophy hunters and right here on Earth do things that feel a little bit outmatched. At the same time, a tiger is not going to decide to not use its fangs or its claws to attack you. It's going to use all that it has. And a human, that we would lose in a in a hand-to-hand fight with a
In
tiger
a
every
fair
time.
fight.
But if we use everything, but what's fair is what makes humans what we are is opposable thumbs and intelligence, and we've invented mechanisms and machine and designs. We made it a gun. A tiger cannot make a gun. We made it. That is why we have the leg up on. So we are as a culture. So I consider both things. And so with the outro, with that thing, I consider both things. I think there's something to um their perception of honor in what they're doing, and yet also from a perspective can feel like how can you find honor in that? And I do wonder going forward if there are different tribal considerations to that stuff.
Yeah, it's something I've always kind of, it reminds me of that line from Pirates of the Caribbean where she brings up the pirate code and he's like, it's really more like guidelines.
Yeah, it's so good.
And
It's a great line.
so
Great line.
I have thought of it like, yeah, different clans will have different practices with this, but also different predator individuals. Like in predators, you have the big berserker predator will just knife Topher Grace's character on the ground, but the falconer predator like lets Hanzo get up and continue the fight. So there's definitely like it's less rigid, I think, there than some fans maybe think it is.
And in everything prior to Prey, or I guess including Prey too. But when the franchise has been a horror movie, when the franchise has been a slasher movie by plot construction, that's what made it. That's the key differentiator. That's what makes it special. That's why we've liked. You're like, oh, like Jason, Michael Myers, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's just a force of nature that is coming to kill and maim and torture. Like it's not going to stop and think and question what I don't think it would toy. And those other, I guess Freddy Krueger kind of toys a little bit. Although Freddy's, I think, awesome. But not that those aren't awesome, but even still, its goal is just to kill as best it can, and the people are outrunning, and that's what Predator felt like until
That
you
moment.
realize, oh, it's intelligent. It it has a culture. It's got wearing certain things that speak to fashion sense and very 80s fashion sense, but clearly, and it felt either more scary or more cool, no matter whether respective. It was somewhat scarier when you're younger. Like you're the xenomorph, whatever, like you're always gonna be more intelligent than a beast. But to be up against something with intelligence it's a different kind of foe in a horror movie. Um, so that has to be retained, and that's what allowed us to do other things with it and be in different genres and all that stuff. I always felt like that the creature or jungle hunter, when it took off its mask, that it was cool. I never felt scared. It's kind of what drove Feral. I was like, can it be actually like scary and icky and gross? Because I think the reason why kids show up in Halloween, I've never seen the movie, but they show up in Predator costumes and Comic Con, all those things, is because it's cool. It's actually it's badass. It's not like
Yeah.
frightening. Yeah.
Would you ever be interested in doing an actual horror slant on the Predator?
I have considered that. And Prey, once again, I started to skew Prey more in that direction as I realized, oh man, that's another thing that hasn't been done really with the friend. No one's really made a straight up like genuinely frightening version with the creature. They've always been some kind of action mashup with things, but no, I do think that is very interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
On your interpretation there as well. I don't think it's ever been Like, I'm obsessed with the fucking thing, but I've never thought it to be a horror icon in the same
Yeah.
way that the Alien is.
I
Like
remember
that.
there was a debate on Twitter about this like a few years ago, like is Predator a horror movie or something like that. And while I definitely like, yeah, you could put it in that genre for sure. Like I consider it a horror film. I think we still have yet to see a Predator film where like you really lean into
Agree.
it
Totally
being
agree.
like a full
I
on horror movie.
I say plot construction just because it is, by genre definitions, you're seeing you bond with a group of people, and then you see them killed off one by one until
Yeah.
there's a final, which is
Yeah.
any look at any horror franchise.
Yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I think that's a version of a Predator movie we haven't seen yet.
So one of the things I noticed in the excellent musical score for
Mm,
Badlands was the vocal aspect, which almost sounded like a cyber chanting, and it reminded me of the unique blend of tech and tribalism of the Yautja themselves.
yeah.
It also reminded me a lot of the video game Anthem, which Sarah Sashner scored. So you've spoken before about how video games have had a major influence on the way you make films. Was this an intentional influence from the Anthem score that you had requested, or something that Sarah just brought to the film herself?
Intentional that I requested, and also exciting for me to finally say it's Sarah Schachner.
Shackner, my
Schachner.
apologies.
Yeah, no, no, no. Every time you say, I'm like, next time I'm on, I'll tell. So Sarah Schachner, but yeah, no, I really wanted. I'm a movie score nerd, and love wonderful music, and um when I think I mentioned you guys when I was doing Prey and I was playing Valhalla, and then I was like, who did this? And Sarah and but when I was like, who did this? The next thing I heard was her Game Awards live performance of Anthem. And um by the way, I happen to like that game. I have no idea why it received what it received, and unfortunately, I like return to it every now and again, and now it's being, or maybe it already happened.
Yeah, I
Totally
was
shut.
hoping it would get the 2.0 release they were working on, but EA decided not
Yeah,
to move forward with.
or have some sort of like, we actually like this game now. That happens in fandom sometimes, but that score is awesome for Anthem, and I think I was just thinking about what this movie could have, and I really did not think it would be right. I did not feel like it would be right to have this one be another return to, or a return to the traditional Predator Silvestri stuff. It didn't the aesthetic of the movie didn't seem like it's right with that, like, militaristic, and also I don't know the order of the events of me thinking about stuff, but Killer of Killers, we did like so many. I mean, of course, in Prey, we had our own little like version of the Predator theme. Um, Killer of Killers, it was like everywhere in so many different ways. It was like, let's do it with horns in the World War II. Let's do it with drums in the Viking chapter, and like every which way was like, and now you hear it this way and this way. So it felt like we pushed and pulled it in so many different directions. Um, and 2018 Predator brought it back after we hadn't heard it for a while, and it felt like, well, one day we'll bring it back and hear it again. But this is not the movie to like have it like be full on. Um, and I think I just popped in Anthem, that YouTube video, uh, and was like, right, the vocoder, this like thing, that's like so her jam, so her thing, that feels the way I mean, you hear a vocoder in like Alan Parsons, like it's a 70s thing. It's a 70s synthy thing. The way Sarah uses it makes it feel epic. And as you said, just like the Yautja, it's like this combination of human driven or organic and technology. I mean, it's literally the combination of organic and tech. Um, and that felt really right for the movie. Um, and I tried to have a little bit of the editors kind of use it as temp here and there. And we really wanted a lot of chanting in the movie, and tribal, and hopefully eventually Yautja language in the score. That, of course, then informed in Killer Killers. We ended up doing what we were planning on doing for Badlands, and we ended up infusing that in Killer Killers, and then it was stuff from Killer Killers that we infused back in Badlands with Ben Wallfish. Uh, but this but the vocoder was a specific request, and then a wonderful indulgence from Sarah to go whole hog and really bring something really special sounding to the movie. But also worth mentioning, one of my favorite pieces of music in the movie is from Ben, and it's in the over the end credits. He wrote this incredible piece of music, and thankfully we were able to put it in the final trail, in the third trailer for the movie, in some form, and then it's fully on in the credits, and I get emotional every time I hear it. It's beautiful. I could not find a spot for it in the movie. I thought it might be in the end fight between Deck and Father, but didn't quite feel right there. And it's a lovely, beautiful, melodic use of the chanting and
Is it Yautja prayer?
big orchestral. Is that what it's called? I actually don't know the names of all the. I mean, some of the names were a delight, but I don't remember the name, what it was named. But it's the after the badass music plays in the end credits on the main on ends.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
It goes. It's called Yautja prayer.
Mm.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much.
The score, ever since the trailer, I forget if it was the first one or one of the later ones, but the trailer where we actually got the chanting.
It was it was the teaser. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I,
Yeah.
I was like, this needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, because as film nerds, we're conditioned to know that just because it sounds like this in the trailer, it's not guaranteed to be
Yeah.
representative of the film. But, you know, ever since that trailer, I was like, this needs to be in the film. Oh, God, I hope this is in the film. And, you know, when it starts with the Yautja Codex statement and the chanting, love how Dan is one of the first words said in the film, by the way.
Well, what is one of the first words said in the film?
The codex in Yautja,
Yeah.
Dan is
Dan?
son. Yeah.
Oh,
They
like
they
in
talk differently.
Yautja.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I thought
He
I
said he
didn't
asked her
realize
Irish.
that was one of the first. Yeah, I didn't process that that's the first. Certainly not. Well, because let me loved that music, and that was not Sarah. That was done by a trailer music company, Totem. That we love. Stefan, one of our editors, found early on, and was like keystone for the movie. It was like, this is the movie for sure. This is the movie. And I thought, we're just gonna have to use that piece. We're just gonna have to license that piece, like, you know. And then thankfully Sarah that found really brought it home with a new thing. But because of that, the opening of the movie was initially initially it was just the wide of the vista of the planet, and then became the pushing through the cave, opening up to the planet. But it was very similar to, well, it wasn't even similar to Prey. I mean, it was similar to Prey in terms of like, oh, you're seeing this little documentary of like life on this alien planet, the way that Prey opened on this little docu thing on the life and um, uh, on Earth, I guess. But the trying to think of the order. Yeah, so it was spoken. It was not a codex. It was just, you hear Yautja and you're reading subtitles as we're pushing in, and we all got pretty tied to that, and it was a great way to start and cue people to, like, you're gonna see subtitles. Be prepared to read as you're hearing this voice. And then Sarah wrote that incredible piece of music that was really cool to start really quiet, and then have it get a little louder and a little louder, and and I just tempted in, I just said, let's get rid of the subtitle, get rid of the dialogue right now. Let me just with music, and the slam on, and and I was like, oh darn. And the subtitles for me, were not letting us enjoy the like pushing through the cave, and you wouldn't spot the bike because you're looking down at the subtitles, so you're not quite seeing the. I was like, oh no, we have to like reorder things. And then I try to do like, oh, the movies maybe to do just like Prey, where we hear over black. We're hearing just the voice but the subtitles, but the chanting and all of it was competing. Um, and then the last thing we tried was, okay, maybe it's tied to Killer of Killers, and we open on Codex again um and have those words, and all of it was challenging because everyone was so in love with the initial version of things. So to get people on board with this new thing, but and all of it really came from her music. We never would have changed anything if it weren't for the structure of what she wrote. So uh but anyway, that's probably why I never picked up on the like my name is the thing. Anyway, but
Yeah,
yeah,
in the lyrics.
yeah,
No, damn, no. It's there's so many ways that this film sets itself apart from the rest of the series while still being so rooted in Predator. You know, I am this will kind of tie into one of the next questions coming up. But it's the frequency of going back to that well of the previous things, the familiar things.
yeah.
So for you to abandon Silvestri's score, which your logic's absolutely fucking sound as well, but it's refreshing because not only is it not relying on the legacy, but it has such a unique and yet fitting sonic identity in itself. It was just
Mm,
you said at MCM, I want people to go watch this in IMAX so they can hear, Sarah's score and hear the sound and everything.
yeah.
And I've listened to that soundtrack so many times
Oh, that's
in the
awesome.
last 2 months that this has been out, and yeah, it's up there. I think it might even be my favorite Predator score at the minute.
Oh, I love it, love it. Well, could be recency bias, but I'm glad you feel that way.
Oh,
I love it. I love it too.
mm.
Really do. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of her music since I think I first heard it in, well, I think Anthem at Game Awards. I was like, wait, who is this?
Yeah.
And then she did Modern Warfare 2019, which I thought was
Hmm.
just awesome. And having someone like Benjamin Wallfish, who's, worked on Alien as well now coming into the mix, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see them collaborate.
Yep. Yep. And his score for Killer of Killers, like I said, his pieces in Badlands are awesome too. But the Killer Killer score, especially for me, the way we were brought into that movie with his music, in the Shield chapter is just awesome. And I loved it. I loved what he tapped into when we first get to Yautja Prime with Torres on the in space and the electronic quality of that. That's like scary and cool. Yeah, it's really really awesome. No, but we fully brought back Silvestri. Like we didn't even do
Mm.
anything to it. Just fully, we didn't reorchestrate nothing. We just fully brought it back for um some
Like
of
the
those sessions.
interlude bits, right?
The interlude
Yeah.
and when Torres is taken um in the crop circle, that whole, that's just full on just Silvestri time.
So speaking of Wallfish there as well, then, and killers, an alien working with Michael Bean.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was awesome. Uh
Did you seek him out for that, or was that just a
yes.
natural? Okay.
Yeah, no, we had that character changed a lot. It was his buddy, and then it was a bully, and then it was like all these different things, and then it became another father figure, and someone that was much older, and that then it was like holy poop, it can be Michael Bean. And hearing Michael Bean say, "Kill this motherfucker for me," is like every time he says it, I get chills hearing him say it. And I have one version somewhere on my phone. Uh, that when he was in the booth, he said, hey Torres, get away from her, you bitch. Like he like just like did the thing. It was great. Um, but no, it was awesome. It was a real pleasure. He just put out a podcast with James Cameron.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen it already, yeah, it's wonderful to hear um those two.
back
talking.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a as much as I do like fuck, who plays Quaritch?
Stephen Lang. Yeah.
Stephen Lang, yeah. I
Yeah.
was kind of disappointed we didn't get to have Michael Biehn
Yeah.
as him, because I think he
Yeah.
spoke about that originally. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was cool to get to see them back together on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, to pivot from such a wonderful moment, if you've listened to us speak before, you also know
Oh yeah.
I'm
Let's
one.
hear. Let's hear it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know I'm one of these people that does not like reused dialogues or too obvious callbacks and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
I love that you did not go
Yeah.
and do that in Badlands,
Yeah.
other than the one little callback to yourself in Prey. Now, now that okay, how do I segue this one? So when we spoke to Fede
Yeah.
about Romulus, and when we've worked on some of the novels and pushed back on that kind of thing in the novels,
Yeah.
the thing that we tend to get, and the thing that Fede told us, is it's creators reveling in the things they loved as children, or
Mm.
when they were younger. It's a chance to go and do what they were doing on the schoolyard, but on the big screen, and get to relive those moments.
Mm.
Now, you're at this point when you're making Badlands, when you're making Killers, you're at this point now where you've done your one chance to play in the franchise, in quotation marks. Does the way you think about that kind of callback, that kind of reference, fan service, however you want to call it, does your perspective on that change now that you've been and had that chance, and you're now working on there, and yes, this is something I get to do again?
Does my perspective on it change?
Yeah. So you're not
Um,
so thrilled to want to
I don't
revel
think.
in
Yeah,
that
I don't
thing?
think I ever. Yeah, I mean, Prey had its one.
Only a couple of moments, yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
in
It
dialogue.
was,
I mean, the
yeah.
movies have everything. Everything for me comes out of what makes the moment awesome. Um, and what is almost always we've needed to do something in a scene. What can they say here that makes it sound like what is it? And it's like, what do they do? Like, I think maybe I said last time, but I remember in Prey, they were um we were shooting the scene in the tall grass, and um oh gosh, I forget the character's name. Uh but oh my god, what was his name?
The other one with Naru.
Yeah, and he goes to take a leak, and then
Yeah.
um uh
I can't
but
remember either.
Harlan is the actor's name. So Harlan grabs Amber down, and then she's talking, and then he shh, right? But he didn't do that at first. He just said shh, quiet or whatever. And and then I went over to and give. I was like, maybe it feels cool if you just go like, shh, do the thing. And I go back in their tent with my DP next to me, and we see them do rehearsal. I'm like, oh, that's so much better. That's really cool. And I was like, what is this from? This is from this moment feels familiar to me. What is it from? Something? And he turns to me and he's like, Predator. It's from Predator. It's Charles Dutton, And I was like, oh yeah, right. And what was interesting was maybe that was in my subconscious from having that seen the movie the million times. Maybe it was just two directors looking at the same dramatic need and coming to the same conclusion. Um, and I think the like if it bleeds line and pray, like I know some people groan, but I think mostly it felt like an awesome, cool, and was not a groan. And for people who don't know the reference, like it's just like, oh, it's a cool thing to say, like because it came out of the narrative need to say something. Um, and the come on, do it's that like those all are like exactly what the character actually does need to say in those moments from Amber to Torres. Um, and all the physical things that Deck does that are similar to what Dutch does, and those are things that we wanted him to do in the story, that he needed to do those things to. That's also what Dutch needed to do, so that they can be there and feel like a reference, or like literally him going over the waterfall, in Badlands when he jumps out the back of the convoy and goes in the waterfall. Not at all at the time. Not at all. Not wasn't like, oh, we gotta have a scene like in where Dutch goes over the waterfall. It was like, we got to get him out. He's got to flee. He's got to be quickly away so they can't turn around and start shooting at him and keep going. He's got to. Oh, so like going over the edge of a cliff, and then he's like gone. Like they can't like track him down, and and then he can end up going where he needs to go, and he could also not be close enough to like find them right away and all that. And then we realized that's kind of what needed to happen in Predator. They needed to get Arnold away enough from him to create distance, and so we were looking at the same dramatic issue. And then it gets to become, and I get to say in every interview, like, yeah, the Easter eggs sure are. We have this great nod in the waterfall to, whatever. So I think I'd like to think that maybe that's why hopefully things don't feel overly fan servicey and all that stuff in these movies, or at least in Badlands and in stuff I'm doing so far.
I didn't think that it did.
Yeah. Good. Awesome.
So
no, and I'm with you. I really wanted to avoid there. A lot of Deck has a line when he's facing off against Tessa. Oh my God, I always remember it as we had an older line there, and that's the one that I remember. She says, well, what did she say now? I can't remember what she said. I'll tell you what the old line was. She says, how does it feel to be hunted? And he says, is that what it is now?
Yeah, and then he says, you tell me, or some, yeah.
Right. The old one was like, oh, the old one was, thanks, Deck. I've always wanted to hunt a Yautja. And he says, no, I'm hunting you. That was an earlier version, but it's a real moment where the music stops down and hits a crescendo, and it's like, and now he's gonna say something badass. So that was there's a lot of pitches for what if he said. And to be fair, I was trying to find a place for stick around because I felt like that is not at all you're not expecting, but it didn't. There was no place we could have forced it, and it would have been awful. But it would have been lovely if there was an organic reason why he absolutely would say in that moment when but didn't make sense. So that's not in the movie.
And it's something I saw some praise for in some reporting shortly after the film came out, like the aliens kind of vibe we had with the superpower loader and even some of the sound effects there. Like it was very like mindfully and subtly done and not overly fan servicey. But yeah, with Romulus, it was kind of a challenge for us fans because and other fan groups as well, like on their podcast mentioned, oh, this was a groany moment when the character says, "Get away from her, you bitch." But we all noted that was the moment where the theater cheered, like in almost all of our different screenings. So it was something where we had to be like, well, are we just curmudgeony old fans? Can we just not have fun with this sort of thing? But no, I feel like, and even with the Alien versus Predator elements here, it was cool to. I mean, I still had that thought in my mind: is he going to throw a xenomorph in the end of the movie? Is that just going to show up? And I'm glad it didn't happen because it was a nice, like, subtle introduction to these two universes which we love, like starting to come together again, but not just like jumping the gun with it.
Yep. That's the idea.
So building on that, it'd be fair to say that when we saw the fandom, sorry, let me start over there. It'd be fair to say that when the fandom saw mentions of Weyland-Yutani in the trailers, there was a lot of excitement at Predator intersecting with the Alien franchise on the big screen again. I especially love the Callus having the XX moniker. I think Aaron wrote that one because he really loved it, but it was cool to see for me as well. One of the earlier scripts also had a hologram of an alien in it. However, in that reconnection, Badlands also fell into some controversy that Alien Earth fell afoul of, and that is the idea of humanity not having any form of FTL travel this far in the future. Have you become aware of this since the film's release?
Yes. Wait. Remind me of yeah. There what we were in the holograms in the beginning. You guys caught Nadu in there, yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
the representative of Earth, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There were at one point it was like it was Dutch, and then Nadu. Like you see both, and the next one you see that's like you really can't see, but is the backbiter from Killer of Killers.
Hmm.
But and there was going to be a xenomorph in there too. But I think I just would invoke like a bunch of other producers and it's like we didn't need to do it. So, um, what is your sorry about FTL? Yes, the Fast and Light. She says.
I
Go
still
ahead.
haven't
Say it
cracked that
again.
one yet.
What's up?
Yeah, there's a moment where they're traveling together where she asks if Deck was traveling faster than light, because she's like, "Oh, we still haven't
We haven't cracked. She
cracked
goes. We
that
haven't
one yet."
cracked that yet. Right. Um. Right. And you guys feel like and maybe this is just my and maybe I shouldn't say anything right now and let later movies say whatever they need to say. But I don't think that um with Yutani and things from the Alien verse can ever go to warp speed, which in my mind is faster than light speed, is warping someplace. I think everything is a longer bit of travel. Why Ripley, was 70 years time and all that thing. Like there's no instantaneous travel.
Mm.
Um, I don't think it's as slow as what it takes now with NASA or whatever. I don't even know. It's not NASA now. It's whatever it is, Space Force or but go ahead, nerd me out now. Tell
So
me,
this was a
yeah.
sticking point for some fans when Alien Earth came along. I know some were speculating, "Oh, did No Holly tell him to throw that line in there or whatever?"
No,
But
he didn't. But yeah,
but yeah, I mean, so we were kind of taken aback by that because yeah, although it's not uh in maybe a more fantastical portrayal like we've seen Star Wars or Star Trek where ships jump to hyperspace or jump to warp or whatever like that. Like
right.
we've long thought of the ships as traveling faster than light. I mean, just from the distance of like Earth to LV-426, they're getting there in 2 weeks. Like that's not possible. Like, yeah, they might
But
still.
isn't 2 weeks right? Yeah, but does that mean that it's faster than light?
I mean,
It has. Well,
well,
it depends how granular you want to get there, Dan. I suppose.
Because
Uh,
that,
if
yeah,
you're
go
talking
ahead.
about relativity and stuff. But yeah, I mean, even with like nerdy things in the expanded universe, like there's a blueprint you can buy of the Nostromo that came out like I don't know decades ago that says like, oh, Rolls Royce FTL engines and stuff. So it was just
Oh
something
well,
we
I didn't
long
know that.
kind of
But
thought of.
but 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 2 weeks time is so opposite of um warp speed, hyperspeed, that kind of thing. But go
it
ahead,
needs
Aaron.
to be
Tell me.
faster than light though in some capacity to get 32 light years in 2 weeks.
Oh, I see. Me,
And
yeah,
that's the same sort of
yeah.
logic that applies to Alien Earth, where this is the ship that's gone the furthest it's ever been gone. How long was it, Adam? 60 years.
Yeah, 60 something years. But even that
Wi-
is like the longest we've ever seen a space flight in Alien, unless it's like a generational ship or something
But
like that.
but even then, in the logic of that, that means it be 30 years out there, 30 years back, and that's still shorter distance than LV-426.
You're talking about the in Alien Earth, the
Yeah,
alien.
in Alien
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah,
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 sorry.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
gotcha, I
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Let's see. I'll talk to Neil deGrasse before we do the next one, and we'll make sure that the terminology is dead on. I feel like somehow there may be a way in which that line can still make. A,
Well, she does say sublight speed, so I'm wondering if she meant like, oh, does she mean like navigating at sublight speed? Like they can't do that; they have another navigating process or something like that. But no, just one of those very brief, lines that us fans were like, wait, what? But
I
like,
can't out the person that wrote that line, but the person that wrote that line is a very nerdy person that we went to specifically for, like, we need her to say something here that indicates this. Um, so that's why I don't want to speak too out of turn as to like what the thinking was, but in my mind, the way I interpreted it uh, always was like, yeah, this is not Star Wars, this is not Star Trek. They are not um, instantaneously wormholing to places, and we've seen some Predator ships do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We've
the
seen some of
Predator.
them wormhole in
Mhm.
the Predator. We did not necessarily see Dex or Quay's ship doing that. But yeah.
Some of the lines that Thea says to Deck though during their travels, I thought were really cool. Just the moment where she's like, "Oh, I haven't seen that weapon you have, that plasma sword. Like, is that specific to your clan or
Unique to
something?"
your
Like,
clan, yeah.
yeah. So those moments were really cool. And when she starts explaining the history of the planet to him, and it was like you were just having the vibe of this moment in their journey, like something we also kind of saw in Prey, like these big sweeping shots of like travel, but
Mhm,
also like infusing some story into it.
mhm. Yeah,
God, I
yeah.
love Thea. I loved Al. Just from that very first friggin' trailer with the looking over Deck's POV, I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this girl.
Awesome. That has to happen for you to like the movie.
Mm,
It's hard to like it if you don't like that character. Uh, and, uh, and it was challenging to find the right balance of what makes this fun and makes this a premise, and makes these characters bounce off each other, and also but also, is it too indulgent or too funny or too frivolously funny, um and all that stuff. So I'm glad that we were able to
mm,
land for you.
Yeah, she really killed it in that role, especially when it's like she's playing a synthetic, pretending to be another synthetic that's completely not like her and pulling this
Hmm.
off. Like that's just wild. And the two synthetics were pretty distinct, and it makes me wonder about their backstory because like we get the impression like Tessa has this moment where she's confronted with Mother, but she kind of says, "Oh, I made the mistake of trying to protect you." So she's had this like big character shift herself that's like
Hmm.
taken Thea aback, and I'm like, "Whoa, like what were they like before? Like what was their dynamic before kind of thing?" And it really got me thinking about that. So she made for an interesting antagonist in the story, I thought.
Awesome.
and I liked the visual stuff that you went and did there as well with the damage
Hmm.
because even a simple thing like getting rid of an eyebrow just made her unsettling to look
Totally.
at.
Totally. Massive, massive. Yeah, that wasn't. So I should say this is where the Abe thing can the Abe story can be
Okay.
told. Yeah, because that the initial. I mean, the script changed a lot over the course of everything. I'm very curious what draft you guys have had at whatever point you had it.
Okay.
Um,
It was
but
it was
yeah, go
Abe
ahead.
isn't in the draft I have. It's father instead of mother. I think it's father. Hang on. I've only read it through the once.
Father is in the computer
Yeah.
for the ship.
Really?
Hang on. I'm double checking now because I might be chatting bullshit.
Oh, I think I know. It wasn't Father for the Computer. It would have been like maybe them talking about the person that created them.
Oh
We
shit, no, I'm looking at fucking father there. No, sorry.
okay. Um, but we did do a draft that was like referring to their creator. We did so they really went through a lot throughout, and um, there is a version, the version that we shot. We had a version that we loved that we before in prep that was with Mother. And then that didn't survive for various reasons. But Mother was always the like somehow we have to return to that um notion that included because we just the familial stuff and it felt like this is a no-brainer. We have to do this. But the version we shot was one where there was a superior synth, and that superior synth was called Abe, and Tessa was subordinate to him, but really did not want to be. And um, and she kind of goes rogue and goes to the Yautja ship and gets a weapon, gets the cryo. He didn't think that there was use to going to the Yautja ship. She goes, proves, oh, I did find something useful, and then like fucks him up. And it was really cool, and it's in No Mother or Abe. Gotcha. Um, so uh, that's the version that was shot, and that people can see on the deleted scenes when the disc comes out. And the Abe actor, wonderful guy, Aaron Jackson, and was so sorry to cut him from
As
the movie.
in, as in Battlestar.
Hmm?
As in.
You mean the actor?
Oh no, I'm thinking Douglas Jackson's in
Yeah,
Battlestar.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's a New Zealand guy. But and then we found our way back into um the land of Mother and the two um sisters. But what was I going to say? I will say along the way, a lot of interesting, thought-provoking ideas of dilemmas that synths could be in were coursing through us, and there's a lot of interesting stuff to
Mm.
mine there. That just through the exercise of having to figure out their story really led us to. But what was you had an initial question? Was it about Mother? I can't remember. What was the initial question? Or you were just saying that you liked the aesthetic and the story of the two of them and her.
Oh,
Um,
you're asking me? Yeah, I just thought
that's what it was.
their
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
sister dynamic was
yeah.
really intriguing. I mean, it seemed like, in a way, maybe kind of the reverse of
Oh,
Deck and Quay, like, because they have like this
mm,
brotherly bond that one of them dies for.
yeah.
Whereas, with Tessa, she's like, "Oh, I almost lost everything, so I shouldn't have had this like strong bond with
She
you," sort
sees
of
it
thing.
as sees it as something that hurt. Her having feelings almost screwed everything up,
Mm.
rather the what Deck learns is that was the superpower, and what Quay did, sacrifice is what made him stronger. It's easy to kill. It's much harder to protect. The You said the eyebrows. That's what triggered the whole
Oh
thing.
yeah.
So it
That's
was the damage. So that was it was something we wanted at one point and think we could afford, and then we decided we found a way to do a very specific kind of damage to her, and to your point, this is why I was thinking, is deleting those eyebrows does so much. Just that small thing, and then so we made it that she got her damage was that. So when she gets repaired, she like interrupts it when she hears that the yacht is out there, and then has her sister. So she wakes up and interrupts the repair from completing, and that's why she's still half damaged. And all that stuff came at the very end of the process. Um, and at one point it was going to be humans and synths together. I mean, the initial idea was that it was going to all be L's. That every synth. The first idea was all synths, all L's. And then it became Thea and Tessa are special, and then everything else is one um, form of another brand of synth.
poor Cameron Brown.
And then it became, but this is before Cameron, and then it became we can't afford that. So let's do superior officer like Abe and some other guys, and then uniform. So there's like less of VFX, so they can have different faces,
Mm.
and that's what we shot, and you'll see some of that in the deleted scenes, and just felt like this just looks like a bunch of humans standing around, and there's nothing intimidating. There's no idea to this. There's no conceit to this. It just feels like now just killing henchmen and just like guys. Whereas if they were all uniform, there'd be something so much more intimidating, and it feels like there's a premise there. I always love the idea of learning from mistakes, or sending synths to a planet to interrogate it before they send any humans there. Um, so that's why we ended up where we ended up.
It was it was another one of those cool ideas where it's like I have a soft spot for the two Fassbenders in Covenant,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like to then go to all these Cameron Browns, multiple L's, because I think because of the damage to Tessa as well,
Yeah.
there's people who didn't realize that L was playing both of them,
Yeah.
and it
Surprise for
gives
people who aren't reading everything about a movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it gives a bit more visual weight to them as well, and
Mm-hmm. A
world
thousand percent.
building
A
and
thousand percent.
world building in the fact that it's all the same models, because of course it's going to be all the same fucking models.
Mm-hmm.
When you're thinking um logically for the organizations doing these
That's
kind
right.
of things.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
So speaking of the special effects, special features, sorry, on
Mm,
the home releases and stuff,
mm.
something producer Ben Rosenblatt had mentioned in the past, and something that we got no end of requests to include in this interview was the idea of a CGI-less cut of the film for home release, like what
Mm.
Kingdom of Planets of the Apes did. Is that something that's a realistic possibility?
Well, we didn't do it yet, and I think that ship probably sailed. But let me hit Ben up after this interview, um, because you're right. I mean, I would love for people, maybe, but it doesn't mean that we can't like find a way to release something like that
Mm,
online, or just to, but because and Demetrius deserves it. And the VFX artist deserve, like, both parties like deserve for people to see, like, oh my gosh, that's why, look at how incredible Demetrius is, and also like, oh my god, but look at what they did to it too,
mhm.
um but but yeah, no, I we may have missed the deadline. The problem is, it's it's it'd be a lot of work. It's not just, oh, let's just like turn that layer
Yeah.
off, it's a lot. And then you have to recolor time those, it's like it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But because there's other effects. There's like, is Bud, in that
Yeah,
cut
do
that we
you
put
do you
out,
go down
we're not,
yeah,
is
fair.
Thea VFX. I mean, I guess people would be, oh, we'd love to just see that, but then anyway, yeah,
Fair,
we'll see. I'll
fair.
see. I'll see if we can figure out some way to put some more of that stuff out there for sure. Because I'm with you. It's awesome. Yeah.
I think he was asked about it on the red carpet, or one of the carpets, and it was something he'd been like, "Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
tempting."
Yeah.
Just to rewind a little bit to talk
Yeah.
about Easter eggs.
Yeah.
The trophy cabinet in Quay's ship. When
Hmm.
we got to see that in the trailer, it caused a lot of speculation. You've since confirmed that one of the schools was intended to be a harvester from Independence Day, and fans have still trying to figure out if any of the other things in there are intentional. The other schools are intentional to anything, and I think one of the biggest speculations that I've seen on the boards has been, is that giant humanoid skull supposed to be a engineer from Prometheus? Is there any other deliberate designs in there that you can shed some light on?
They're all things that we that because they're either owned by Fox or Disney. They're owned by 20th or Disney. They're all things that, I mean, it goes both ways. That we could uh legally put in the movie, but also that legally we could make a movie about that one day. Um so they're all the that yeah, that's what I would say about everything that's up on the wall.
So, ever since the seemingly accidental reveal of Bud at SDCC, a portion of the fandom really took to her, with the Predator Budlands thread becoming quite popular on our message board. But Bud was absent for a lot of the marketing for the film. Was that a conscious decision over possible reaction to the character without the context of the film? And how aware are you of the response to Bud now?
Yeah, that was a struggle throughout. I would have liked to have seen more Bud, but I understand the concern over, of people. I don't know. It's really, really hard to say. Um, uh, because, yeah, but I love Bud so much, and oh, nice. I got the same card from Matt. That's lovely. Yeah. Um, and Matt did my annual. I get like an artist to do a illustrated instead of like taking pictures with the family. I always try to find an artist to do it, and include little bits of like things that over the course of the meant something to my family over the course of the year. Um, and I've asked Matt to do it like for the past 3 years, and this year I think he just could not say no anymore. I'll show. I don't want to post it because it's got like, but just holding up. I think you won't even really see. But it's me and a
Oh,
Labubu up
in the
there.
poster.
My
That's
wife.
awesome.
I don't know why it's not getting in focus, but my wife is There you go. My wife is on my back like Thea crocheting. My daughter's wearing her cheerleader outfit as Thea or Tessa or whatever. She's skateboarding up there. She started skateboarding this year, so but yeah. Um and it's a crocheted power loader because my wife crochets. But Bud, yeah, Bud apps and the marketing is it's tricky. The whole thing has been we'll never know. Would we have tapped into an even wider audience if we would shown more of what the movie actually is? The marketing was all pretty geared towards hardcore predator-ness. And So who's to say? But I'm thrilled that people took to Bud as I felt that they would. And Yeah.
So, also just real quick, I noticed some concept artists like after a movie or show comes out, we're always very interested in seeing the concept artists
Yeah.
share their work. They haven't been able to, and it was cool seeing some of those early iterations of Bud, like one mounting another. Or no, that was
That was
Thea
the
was mounting another creature, I
Yeah,
think,
it
and
was
Bud
that
had
was
a
my
spear.
favorite. That was the one of the very first images, point blank. Like we had a huge crop of first images from
Is it Andre Wallen?
Andre Wallen. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So Andre Wallen, been a fan of forever. And I was like, there's no way when Ben was like, what concept art should we get? And I brought him up and I was like, well, there's no way he'll do that. And he's like, what do you mean? We're making like a big sci-fi movie now. Like we can. And he just did like a bunch of different like, what if a predator in this environment? What if a predator in this environment? Like I had like no ideas yet, and he did one with like a predator in front of was like ice, spiky ice. And in my brain when I first thought it was like, oh, was that like a grass? Oh, it was interesting sci-fi grass thing. And I was like, oh no, it's ice. I was like, wait a second, but what if we did do like the grass is deadly and it's like spikes of and then we wrote that became the whole identity of it in the script, which just came from his image like before we even had a treatment for the movie, just super early. But Roman did the image where I wanted to see what was it like if they were facing off against a power loader, and it had deck on a creature, um, and Thea on a creature, which I always thought was fun. Like she could be on a creature because she's half of a thing. And what became Bud, our little buddy character, we called it. Sitting three facing off against the like giant power loader foot.
Was that always power loader aliens coded? Because like when I first saw the trailer, I was like, the silhouette sort of reminded me of Concrete Jungle, the game, and the mechs that you played against in that.
Yeah, I never played Concrete. You guys bring it back. I never played Concrete Jungle. I didn't even realize the sword was kind of in Concrete. His sword for me came from World of Warcraft, from the glaive, the Demon
Mm.
Hunter glaive. I've since like watched playthroughs of Concrete Jungle. I somehow missed it. It would have been my absolute favorite game. Like and you can't really get it. I guess you can get I've looked up, you can get an emulator for it, but it doesn't seem like it's that easily playable on PC. But so I didn't know. No, it was absolutely always meant to be what we call a super power loader. And felt like the awesome logical next iteration of like we have Lady Utani there and we have the synths and they have
Yeah.
to be he wanted to have him be up against something big. The very first treatment, the pitch to the studio was like the end was going to be him on the back of a grown bud, because the very, very early iterations were like him taming. Bud became the large Kalisk. It wasn't familial. It was actually one creature. That I felt like ultimately felt like that was too fantastical, but one creature, and then he was like riding it into battle at the end, like he was like working with it, which he still is working with the Kalisk sort of, but and this is just this early iteration of it. Um, and in the end, he like shows back up on Yautja Prime, and the door comes down, and the hanger, and he walks off on the back of this giant creature with like chain in its mouth, and the chains are pulling the head of a mech. I mean, like that's I love the idea of the trophy this time is a mech head. That's what the Predator has killed. But then I was like, wait, it's got to be the power. How cool would it be? Like the bad guys are using the good guy weapon from aliens. And it makes sense. Like and it's this piece of utilitarian equipment. Like all that's so. It's like the movie's guiding us there, and then it felt like, but there's no head. There's no head on that thing. And as soon as we start doing stuff like that, it becomes Pacific Rim, or frankly, it becomes. So what made it really hard was James Cameron, who has every right to do it, with Avatar. Like as soon as I put a machine gun in the hand of that thing, it's just a war mech, and it's a mech. It's no longer a power loader. So, which once again is a piece of utilitarian equipment that is repurposed for combat. So, that's what all that stuff drove it. Towards, and that's the story behind that concept art.
Nice. Well, hope to one day. I know they don't do it too much anymore, but I would love to see a concept art of a book
Great.
of those things, like both Killer and Killers, because I know Dane Hallett's been sharing some stuff from Killer of Killers lately. That's
Well,
really
Dane really, yeah. I mean, Dane, yeah. Uh, I, the two things. One, it's worth saying, like these concept artists, sometimes they don't know what of theirs is even being shown to it, and that how many artists are working on the same idea and then end up being in the movie. But also, when you see the movie, you don't realize how much of it is owed to the concept artists. A lot of these ideas it's not just Weta making it, or it's the concept artists. Sometimes that have come up with whole cloth. And I will say, father is Dane Hallett. Like Dane, I spoke about what father should be. Would love to see him wear more trophies on him, the way that the prey mask was, and it's meshed in with the tech and like that very gesturally. And Dane did it, and so often with all the other things, it's like iterations after iteration. Like, more this. Dane sent us a beautifully very illustrative work of art that was Father, and we built that. And it was very hard because, like, in his style, some of the stuff, like, it just looked cool on it. Like, I didn't even know what it was, and I was like, oh, that's like that's like a creature's like finger on a chain on his chest thing. Like, we didn't even know what that was. It just all looked cool. But that is huge props conceptually to Dane Hallett, because that so often, like I said, it's a real process of going back and forth. And that one, maybe there was one back and forth about it, but we largely just physicalized what he initially drew, and that is, I mean, it's now I think one of the coolest movie villain characters, sci-fi creatures, characters, and coolest Yautja / Predator designs, and it's really, really great.
That mask is wild, just wild.
Yeah, the mask is incredible. Yeah.
So Predator Badlands is PG-13, the first in the franchise to have that rating. Second, if you count AVP. With AVP, it was a bit of a controversy back in the day, so much so that they leaned into the R-rated nature of the second film and that one's marketing. Was there ever a concern about the risk of reception to the rating itself?
I mean, yes. yes, but also, fully, I knew what we were doing, and I knew once people saw what we were doing, I didn't think it was hard. Once we had concocted what we concocted, I was really hard pressed to feel like, how can anyone complain that they're seeing, the spine rip and the hole get blown through the guy and to reveal him saying, like, all this stuff is super um violent and very iconically Predator, and um it was certainly in my mind. Another propulsion for making Killer of Killers was to, you know, garner trust and let people know, like, hey guys, like, I like what you like too. Like, this is Killers is IV drip of insane over the top action. And rest assured that that same person that's making the movie, that may have a label on it that you might not like, um, but is still. And the irony is, AVP is one of the most successful movies of the entire franchise. Um,
I think it's second only to Predator. I haven't factored
yeah,
Badlands into that yet.
and
That does make for sense.
AVPR,
Is down there at the bottom.
that's right. It's like, it does not matter what the rating, does not matter. What matters is movie. Is the movie
Absolutely.
awesome? And is the action awesome? And when you have the rating, all that stuff is what matters. And I knew that we were delivering. This was not going to feel to anyone. And I mean, it also would be different if we were making the movie in a different era where a PG-13, when we were growing up, we may not have gotten away with what we now accept. I think, you know, the Dark Knight, shoving a pencil through a guy's eyeball in a PG-13 movie is a cue to a modern audience, like, you can do what you want, um so but there was concern, certainly, to how people would initially react upon hearing it, for sure. I definitely felt like the movie would hopefully dispel as soon as people saw it.
Yeah, I felt like among fandom there was less resistance to it, of course, than AVP. I still remember when I saw that footage at Comic Con, assuming it would be R, because it seemed like in that footage, like Quay's beheading was a bit longer and more graphic.
It's just one
Um,
shot. We had one shot more, where he's holding it up, which we
mhm.
really did not need anyway.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess I could. I mean, I assume it was kind of like that moment's already brutal enough. You don't have to
it's
kind
pretty
of like
brutal.
relish in
Yeah,
the gore of it, at that moment with
yeah.
everything he's going through. Um, but yeah, I mean, despite the PG-13 rating, it was reported, I think by Deadline, that the opening percentage of the demographic 13 to 17 was kind of a minority. So, given that, would you see the rating as more of like a one-off for the franchise, or something that's more likely moving forward, given the success of Badlands?
I don't know. I mean, funny enough, like, I didn't make this movie for the rating, like, I made this movie with this idea, and this idea allowed for this rating to occur. It didn't even allow it, like, kind of insisted like, this is um so uh the next movie is going to be what it wants to be, and then it will be rated accordingly. um that that 13 to 17 demographic, sadly, is not showing up for movies that much, period. um Post COVID. So generationally, they're showing up for, like, for movies that are like theirs, from that are their things that they've bonded with in their childhoods, and um but it's a tough demographic anyway, that I that we should be making movies for, um, in premise, that we really got to make sure they realize that it's going to the theaters is awesome. Um,
I think one of the things we saw a lot of on the boards on Facebook was parents taking their kids to see Badlands,
right.
and and them saying how much the kids enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the film, so that's where I think most of that demographic viewership comes from, and that's kind of what you expect, isn't it? Of
Yeah.
people our age at this point, is taking kids to see their
Mhm.
favorite films.
Mhm. Totally, totally. Um, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't wanna speak too much about the future because I don't know. Um, I don't wanna get ahead of certain things, uh, but it could be rated PG-13 or it shouldn't matter. Um, you know, it should
Yeah.
just be yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's hopefully when the movie hits streaming, it sees more of a younger audience check it out. It seemed like with Killer of Killers, I noticed a lot of discussion that seemed to be from newer fans with that one. And when I saw Badlands the first time, I was with my best friend who brought his young daughter to see it, and that was her first Predator movie, and she loved it. So
Mhm.
definitely some of them are still showing up, but yeah, it's as a cinema guy these days, it is wild times for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so at the end of the film, Predator Badlands featured the first big screen mention of a female predator, with Deck looking wary of his approaching mother in a ship
Wait, by the
looking.
way, where do you guys where do you guys net out on including AVP? And you guys should be the definitive say in this.
Like the movies or
When we talk, I mean, it's fun. We do. I don't think we include AVP when we talk about the Alien franchise. I think there's
Not
a much
really.
clearer distinction, clearer line of delineation. But with the Predator
That
franchise, it's very like, how many movies in this? Is there's 9 of these
yeah.
things? Are there 7 of these things? What do we consider?
We've had this
Um,
debate before, like is AVP canon to Predator? I mean, even when Aaron and I were consulting on a Predator anthology book, there were times where we'd argue with each other, where we'd both argue with the editor of the book. Um, I've always considered them as canon to Predator. I mean, even in the Predator, we saw an alien tail that was on Lexus Spear and whatever. But I do expect, like, if AVP seemingly eventually comes back, that they wouldn't fully acknowledge those films. But I remember there was a moment when we consulted in that Predator book where they talked about, like, there was a reference to Prometheus, and I was like, well, that doesn't really makes sense, and because they're saying the AVP movies are canon in other places of this book, why don't you just like reference the old pyramid thing? Like that would be kind of interesting. So
but I think even I don't even mean canonically.
it's
I mean when someone says how many, what number
there's
Predator
a
movie
bracket.
is Badlands?
There's a bracket at the end of those statuses, and I think I'm a bit more pragmatic in this view because um, it's licensing. It's Alien, Predator, Aliens versus Predator. You know, they're three separate licenses.
Right.
Um, so that's how I've always interpreted it. Um, because that's how I understood it to work from a technical point of view from the powers that be. So whenever we say those comments, there is always a bracket at the end that says and including Alien versus Predator.
I like this. I like that way of thinking of it. What installment of the franchise is Badlands?
I guess
What number?
seventh, if because Killer of Killers, I mean that's a
Yeah,
feature film.
Yep.
So like yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So I
That's
guess
what that
both
would be your
franchise.
answer. You wouldn't hesitate. You would just say it's 7.
Yeah.
yeah.
With Alien at 7, if you include Prometheus, which was kind of retroactively made part of the Alien license, I guess, after Covenant. Um, and yeah, so it's like 6 if you don't count Prometheus with Alien, 6 if you're,
I think you count Prometheus. I mean, I
specific
don't
to
know.
live
You
action
you
releases with
have to,
Predator,
man.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah,
Prometheus is an alien movie. There's no
yeah.
there's no way around that. Okay. All right, we sidetracked. Sorry, you were in the middle
No,
of
you're good. So, yeah, so first on-screen mention of a female
of female.
predator,
Yeah.
with Deck looking wary of his approaching mother in a spaceship that looks very much like the ones from Killer of Killers. Recently, female predators were featured prominently in the video game Predator Hunting Grounds, which was the first time we saw them off the page, essentially. Do you see a place for them in future screen projects?
Yeah. They're almost with females in Killer of Killers, and I was just like, this is a third rail, man. But I don't want to. We're not ready for this yet. And I really want it to be very thought through, and not just. as much as I reference Frank Frazetta, I've referenced it a lot on the junket, the paintings of Frank Frazetta as inspiration for the like culture of Yautja for me, just the Conan of it all, just the spirit of it, nothing like no specific image. But uh, the I don't want the feminine version of the Yautja to just look like a Frank Frazetta warrior. I
No
want to
Red
make
Sonja.
I want to no Red Sonja, exactly. I want to make sure that it makes sense and it's cool and they carry thematic and narrative weight and it's something we haven't seen, you know. So but yeah, but Alec and I have continually since Killer Killers have always like said, oh, this is an interesting take on, you know, what if we use this as a reference and or look at this from this culture and that, you know, like, you know. So I think, yeah, someday.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I personally, I feel like the guys at Ilphonic with Hunting Grounds have done a good job of like having different prominent female characters, but having, you know, very unique individualized features. Like the witch predator was one of the last
Yeah,
ones they did that I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
was really interesting. But it's something we've seen almost happen in concept art before, like with predators. I think there was some concept art.
Michael Broom did some for Predators.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's good to hear. Speaking of hunting grounds too, I know, like, I believe you told us in the last podcast we had you on, like, Feral running through the trees was kind of inspired by that game. I mean, obviously we have the bow in this one. Was that also something you noticed from hunting grounds, or?
Yeah, funny enough, yeah, a little bit of Hunting Grounds, and there's a game that I've always loved that I did the cinematic for called Warframe, um, that has a very cool laser bow in it. So yeah, I took inspiration a little bit from both.
So, speaking of video games, then
Hmm.
Kojima had mentioned at one. Yeah, I'm sure it was an off the cuff, not quite a serious thing, but he mentioned Badlands being something that could be adapted for a video game. You are very open about your being influenced by video games. Would you ever want to work on one in some capacity, or
Yeah,
is okay?
my gosh, yes, my gosh, yes, 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 yes. I've yeah. I play more video games than I watch movies, and I'm as inspired by video games as I am by movies. And I by the way, I take that Kojima comment to be not that he'd want to make a Badland, even though the question was that. I think he kind of was like searching for an answer, and he was just saying. And the first thing that came to mind is, I just saw Badlands, and it kind of felt like a video game. So but no, but no, I don't know why, and I didn't know about Concrete Jungle. I mean, I I know of it as of a few years ago, but I didn't grow up with it. So, but I always wanted um, a third person action adventure, um,
Mm,
straight up Predator game, really unique, a lot of opportunity for very unique mechanics, and obvious. You know, imagine a Jedi Survivor or Fallen
yeah,
Order and Survivor style game or Assassin's Creed, you know, any of what we have now, the open world AAA
it's so
experience.
ripe
It's so
for
ripe. It's so ripe.
yeah.
Um, so and
So
even
many
the
different
Abbots, they
personal.
just added third person mode to the. I just don't like first person, but they added the third person mode to the Avatar game, and it's so much more the game I wanted that to be, and I've been enjoying playing through that again. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a fun one. I know Ubisoft did have that little predator sequence they added to Ghost Recon, which got Aaron and
Mhm.
I into that
I
game.
I loved Ghost Recon, and I got into it after that moment, and there was no way to like re-experience that. I was so pissed off. Um, you guys got to experience it.
Yeah, we streamed it on the last day
Last day.
before licensing took it away, unfortunately.
I probably watched your stream of it then because I was trying to watch gameplay of it. Yeah,
The Predator in that cheated so bad, so bad.
it's a cheater. It's a cheater.
Exactly. We're nearly done with our questions. Then we've got just a couple of fan questions. But
Sure.
the last one from me was It was it was something I didn't expect with Badlands, but in retrospect, I was like, of course he fucking did that,
Mhm.
and that's the idea of the found family aspect of it. It's the toxic family. It's very core to Badlands,
Mm.
and when you think of Predator, you don't necessarily think family, you think clan, but it's the same concept, isn't it? It's the same social collection of people, just a different word for it. And it was really interesting that you went down that route for for exploring the Predator, culture, the Predator drama, so to speak, in the film. Um, but again, it made so much sense when you thought about it in the context of clans rather than necessarily family. So
Yeah.
he's an outcast of his clan, but he's assembled a new clan at the end of the film.
Right.
Um, where did that thematic core come from? Why was that the element that you zoned in on to drive the emotional backbone of the film?
Probably a few came from a few places. I think one of them is just at a 30,000-foot view, just like when I starting, um, was my goal in making a movie, period. Just like what stories do I want to tell? Um, I, I'm, I love to show combinations of things. Um, Not so I say that a lot of times when talking about genre, but really just about people. Like I and concepts, and I love the idea of making a movie about a monster, a classic movie monster that represents one of the most ferocious principles in society. And it's a total badass. And we're gonna let it be a fucking badass. Um, and yet it has a whole lot of heart and emotion. That's what as conceptually, I want to make a movie that people are going to be shocked about what they're feeling during it. Um, People would be like, "There's no way you could make a movie like that." Like I just love Terminator 2 is a great example of a movie that has, the Terminator, the kill, and is a beautiful, warm, that there's warmth in the movie. The most bad one of the what if you list the most badass lines in movie history, somewhere on that list, maybe top 5, maybe top 10, I don't know, but somewhere on that list is "Hasta la vista, baby." And "Hasta la vista, baby" is a line in Terminator 2 because a teenage boy is bonding with a robot and is teaching him how to be cool. That's where that line comes from. That famous, most badass line in cinema history comes from a very warm place. And that's why that is a great movie and was one of the biggest movies of the time. That's why it's not just like a cool action movie and you forget about the next day. That's why it's a great movie. And so I really wanted to um, carry that torch and make something that is not just cool Predator movie, dude. And that people go on AVP Galaxy and geek out over, oh, cool, but like for well beyond AVP Galaxy, well beyond, um, people can say, and for the people of AVP Galaxy, for those around them can say, oh, you guys are a site based on awesome movies, great movies, not just like cool genre movie nerd. Like, no, oh yeah, you guys like revere great movies. Um, and so, but it's not. Sometimes people just don't even set their sights on it. Like the arrow is not even aimed in that direction. It's just aimed at make a cool action movie. Or just wanted to aim there. Um, so uh, so that's where the notion of this guy's got to go through some stuff emotionally, go through it, and if he's gonna start low, he's going to go high, and then what does that mean if he's being rejected by family? So that the narrative vortex kind of sucks you in different directions once you set your sights on that. But I really loved the fun of thinking of the genre that is in a Star War and Guardians of the Galaxy and the things where the creature is always in the periphery and is always the side character. So my headspace was already in that genre also of like, yeah, this isn't, once again, this is not just an endeavor for Predator franchise, but also for science fiction as and the whole. That when we see science fiction movies, Predator or Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, it is human characters, and in their band is fun creatures that oftentimes are our favorite characters, but we're there watching the human and his love interest and whatever, and there's like fun, and we go, oh no no no, what if the creature, that's the one, that's the thing. So in my mind already also was like, there should be he should have a little buddy, he should have this crazy midnight run relationship, but it's him having it. He's not the sidekick, he's the one, and the sidekick's going to be the human or the robot or um and all that. So that was, those were the seeds um of going down that direction.
So before we let you go, we have a few questions we've selected for our community. The first is from an artist we've worked with on a number of times. Artist we've worked with a number of times who goes by Azolg Arts. She actually did the tribute pieces for us, both for Badlands and Prey.
Mm-hmm.
And she asks, I was wondering if you feel there are cities on Yautja Prime like the one we saw in AVPR. I've always loved the aesthetic of the city we briefly see in that film. Now we see more kind of like I guess you were saying Viking inspired, so more like a boathouse kind of clan encampment in Badlands. But do you
Mm-hmm.
imagine in other places on Yautja Prime we might have cities?
I'm more drawn to the more nomadic depiction, and the idea that they were sort of build into nature, um but and the city thing implies a kind of society that I have a hard time seeing. Certainly it could work with the stolen technology concept, um but
As in
uh
inhabiting
uh,
the
uh,
cities that were already made up.
exactly, and taking over and living in those spaces, but seeing a hustling and bustling Coruscant, kind of place.
Yeah.
And I know that I know the depiction she's referring to with the in that, and we meet Wolf in APR. That's always rubbed me as a little like fun as a piece of concept art, like fun to like have that there and not have to investigate it at all. But I I think there's more society in their culture than has been depicted. I don't think there are office workers and taxi cab drivers and that I have a, not that she's implying that, but the things that why one makes a city and to look the way that it does there and function the way it does implies different kinds of roles, and I see more um Dothraki and nomadic barbaric tribe, that there can be certainly more gathering places and facilities for those gathering places, um and taverns and I could imagine, and corrals and um but urban city is a not saying it can't happen, and no one yell at me if the next movie comes out and it's got a hustling bustling city, and it's hopefully I cracked it or whatever, but that's not quite where my mind is, and I think there's much more to explore in the other avenue yet, um that can show how there can be more to them without it feeling like, oh, you just made them like I can think there's something still quite specific about them that hopefully doesn't make doesn't portray the way you like them there. It's true, I as much as on the one hand I'm not doing anything to please anybody because all of us nerds war at each other all the time. We all have different things that we like. So if I'm pleasing Aaron, I'm displeasing Adam or the other guys that you have on the podcast. You know what I mean? Like I can't,
Yeah.
but I do like to have the spirit of everyone in mind a little bit and feel like and usually the thing like you may say that you don't like a thing, Aaron, and then you see a certain kind of portrayal of it and go, oh, actually,
Hmm.
if done well, I do, like, and like so it's sometimes it's like because we are all envisioning the worst version of a thing, and maybe right now I'm just envisioning the worst version of City, and Azul's maybe envisioning the best version of it, and I just haven't gotten there yet. Um, but uh, but I do like to sort of carry with me the sentiments of everyone and see like where I feel with it and truly just like well if this creates a great movie moment, if this is a great piece of story or concept for a place for a movie to go, then that's the worthy pursuit. And then you will hopefully people that thought they would hate a thing, and then there's certainly a lot of those people that looked at Prey coming out and looked at Badlands coming out and thought they would absolutely hate it, and then saw a different an execution they weren't expecting and then ended up loving it. So, yep.
Well, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to a Predator Tavern.
See, in my mind, they're watching giant projections of the other predators live streaming their hunts. That's that's the big gathering.
Mm-hmm.
There was a book. Well, it didn't quite do that, but there was a book called South China Sea Predator One.
Huh.
Very hard to get hold of, but one of the best. Absolutely one of the best. And the Predator character in that chills out by watching video recordings of his previous hunts. So he's just sat there watching highlight reels.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very good book. It's written by Jeff Vandermeer, who did Annihilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in a series of Annihilation
Yeah.
and something else that they're returning in the movie. Wow. Did he start out writing
It wasn't his first thing.
Oh.
He'd done a bunch of stuff before he did this one. Yeah.
Wild.
Absolutely recommend trying to find that if you can, but it's very hard to get hold of and quite expensive on the secondary market.
I
But
see.
very good book.
Okay.
So Grayman 53 asks about the predator vision in the film. So they say that in the previous films, whenever we've seen the POV of the predators, it's through some sort of funky, unfiltered infrared or something else. Whatever interpretation you want to go for. Deck never uses his mask while on Jenna. So Genna.
Yeah.
So they will.
It derived from the Hebrew word for hell of a version, or not hell,
okay.
but Gehenna, which is so it became Genna. Right, yeah.
Oh, cool. Adam, didn't I? Sorry, just to keep on topic there. Did I not say there was another? Wasn't Yautja originally based on something else? Didn't I say? Sorry, you've sent me off on a tangent there.
Like it was based on
Dan.
the Hebrew word for something or the Roman word for. Is that what you mean? For
Go back and watch our interview with Steve.
Oh no, it was Ryushi. Sorry,
Oh.
the Ryushi, the planet where the original AVP is based on, the original comic, is a derivation of hunter in Japanese.
Oh,
sorry, just absolutely random aside there that you just sparked
no,
a memory of there.
Yeah.
So what was he asking? Oh, so since Deck never uses his a mask on Genna, is he just absolutely that much of a badass that he's navigating all this chaotic vision?
I mean, this so frustrating for these like 2 shots in the OG Predator have caused me so much consternation over how to handle what Predator vision. By the way, this may have even come up the last time we talked. I don't remember, but I'd be very curious for your guys' take, your take on it, and also your personal feelings about it. As buds here, but that's why, I mean, initially, I'm sure you guys heard reported on it, like, we were
He was going to be
the
blind.
real first version of the movie was he's blind. Um, and that was why he was being tossed aside, and but also what was going to turn him into a total badass, and he was going to use that as his, he overcomes it and over developing his other senses, and he created his own little handmade mask that, biomask that used his clicks as echolocation to navigate. um
Was that dropped while you were filming? Because there was
no, it was
mention
dropped
of
in
it in
prep.
the.
It was dropped in prep.
Oh, okay.
We just had a bunch of previs that, if that's you'll see in the desk, there's a bunch of previs that still had that old mask. You're gonna have a field day with the previs. By the way, I'll say here, I think I say on the special features, there's a sequence that it became with the Calistan sequence, but it was with the, and initially that's where he fought a bunch of synths. And the writing in it is just like the guy who made the previs. He was just like, "Oh, here's things that can be said." It wasn't even from our script. And there's gonna be a bunch of stuff that you guys are gonna be like, "Wait, what are you saying about the Weyland-Yutani lore?" Like, and it's just like fun things to be said, So I'm saying it now, so you guys can set the record straight when people start tearing me apart on the, like, that's not, it wasn't the script. But great. I mean, it was fun things, and anyway. Um, but sorry, what? Oh, that blind. Um, and I was talking about my DP is a fellow predator nerd, and he brought up those shots from the original. I was like, yeah, I guess the implication is that they have really poor eyesight. I mean, is your guys' interpretation that, to me, it's not the strongest
So
writing, and not to, but everything else in that movie is so great, but they see in heat vision just poorly, and
so
they put
the
on
it,
masks so they can see in better heat vision.
so the idea was that it was unfiltered kind of heat vision,
Hmm.
whereas the mask is then a lot more filtered.
Right.
The idea being that in the tropical jungle, everything is going to be absolutely fucking sweltering and indistinctive and all that sort of stuff, and the mask could then be able to filter it down a bit more because it has a bit of a basis in how they actually filmed the footage. So they had to go and cool stuff down before they
Yeah,
put
we
it in
you know we
front of
did
the
the same
infrared
thing with the
camera.
flare camera. Now we did the same thing
Yep.
for Prey, but um
But then it was kind of messed up a little bit with Predator 2 comes along,
yeah, and
and
then he had
it's in
different
the
vision.
it's in the filtered
Right.
infrared.
And but
Yeah.
also when he takes off his mask and he's fighting and he can't see anything when he's fighting,
Mm.
but then he's like going up to those, eh, like he's looking with very fine acuity, because it doesn't matter, because it's a movie and it's fun, you know.
Yeah.
But unfortunately now I gotta make more of these things. You know what I mean? And I'm actually trying to hold everything with reverence, and having them feel authentic, and so to a different standard. You know what I mean? Because Predator didn't need anyone to investigate over investigate everything, but we are. So that's why blind. I just didn't even want to deal with it.
That's fair.
So I was like, blind implies he's poor, but they already have poor vision, and I was like, oh my god, I'm really in the weeds on a thing that I just don't want to deal with yet. Once again, I say, like, until we state it in the movie, it's so I'm still really at a loss for, do I just say bye bye to that one shot or few shots in Predator and say that was that Jungle Hunter, you know, had an eyesight. I know you don't like to blame the clans and all that stuff, but maybe Jungle Hunter had an issue, in his sight
I mean,
prior
I
to wearing a mask.
personally, like, when I got into the franchise, I was playing some of the older video games like AVP and AVP 2. And
Yeah.
when you're playing as the Predator in those games, like, if he loses his mask, his vision's just kind
Just
of
normal.
normal. And
Yeah.
so that kind of surprised me when I finally got around to watching Predator, and wow, their eyesight's like
Oh, you
really
played the
bad when they
games
don't.
before you saw the movie?
Yeah, when I was growing up, when I
Wow.
was a teenager, because they were rated R or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I hear you. Yeah.
I heard an interesting theory. I believe it was from Caleb when we were gaming it up recently. He's like, what if their heat vision is just that's an extra sensory thing that they have, but for the sake of the audience, that's what we were seeing is like that element of their vision, but they also just have their way of seeing normally. Because like, how could they be an advanced spacefaring race if their vision is that bad?
It's hard.
Without a
It's
mask.
hard to believe that. It's
They
very,
steal technology.
very what's that?
So
They just steal and use somebody else's
but they can't
technology.
steal all of it without
No, but the way
understanding
that
it.
they're dealing, the
Mm.
way that they're navigating, and we've also seen them fight a lot without masks,
I
across
have a
multiple. Well, yeah, okay, go ahead. So Adam, I get Adam's feeling on it. Well,
okay.
also you started. Sometimes it's like where you start with something is infects like the way that you view the whole. But wait, go ahead, Aaron. What's your
So
feeling?
I have a fan theory, headcanon, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
of my explanation of the different interpretations, and that's that um it's not so much their default vision, but like default contacts, implants, whatever, where
implants.
it's like this is the prey I'm going to hunt the most, so I'm going to have this visual spectrum um as my default, basically, in case I lose the mask or whatever.
They gave themselves contacts so they could have really crappy heat vision,
Well, who's not to
where
say there's
everything
a
is
different
red and
prey?
black,
There's a different prey that shows
but
up
mostly
better in
red.
that kind of thing.
Um, let's do a poll on your for this thing of like,
Okay.
should we keep the canon of that vision going forward, or can we
Well,
say they see fine and just
I,
jungle
I
hunt?
I get there's elements that are used early on that some fan like that maybe haven't been used for a while. Like when AVP came out, there was the big contention, like, well, why are they hunting in the cold? They only like warm temperatures. And I'm like, well, again, advanced spacefaring race, are they incapable of ever hunting in cold? Yeah, they might have a preference, but they're not
It's
I
gonna
was
like
always
also like a really silly. I mean, I don't mean to be. We shouldn't be picking apart Predator, but but like given what you just said about how no, we would just say their heat vision works different, whatever. But like actual heat vision, you would not be hunting in the hot because everything is hot.
Mhm.
You would actually want to hunt in the cold and try to find the one heat source in the cold that would be a person. But also, it was all just a fun for the. But like you'd if they can choose, like you would be like better to see right now. And then I'm gonna choose heat vision occasionally when I like don't know where something is if it's through but
It was always a stupid complaint in AVP.
it's a
Anyway,
it's all of us it's all nitpick, it's all of it's like no it's whatever crafts the greatest moments.
I just mean as a complaint, oh, they don't like hunting in the heat. Why are they hunting in
Oh,
the
that
cold?
thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a fucking challenge. Why would they not go somewhere that makes them uncomfortable? But yeah, sorry,
Mm,
just
oh,
as an
okay,
aside.
all right.
so fellow AVP Galaxy staff member Caleb also had some questions about Killer of Killers and asks, were there any other time periods you considered for the film that didn't make the cut?
I've been asked this a lot. Not really. No, those really were the ones. It was I mean, I've since had thoughts of like, oh, but initially those those were the most interesting to me, aesthetically. Those were worlds I wanted to spend time in and explore, and personally, just it was my chance to. I've made a Viking movie, I've made a feudal Japan movie, I've made a World War II dogfight movie. I wanted to make those movies. Um, so uh there's definitely other really interesting time periods, but those were the ones, and considering all things, that to me felt like, oh, actually, it'd be cool to craft a narrative using this idea or a fight this way. That and thinking of other time periods, I wasn't as inspired.
I need you to set me straight, Dan,
Yeah.
because I fully expect this to just be my ignorance.
Oh no,
So
you're gonna ask me like a history thing, and I'm not gonna know the
yeah,
answer either.
well, I was I kind of thought it'd be something that you knew that I didn't understand
Yeah.
because I'm not very good at history. No, that's a lie. I'm good at history. I
There
just haven't
definitely
looked
was
at.
something. I remember when you guys were reviewing
It was it
Killers.
was the Japanese stuff. I didn't understand the conflict between the brothers, and I was kind of like, "Oh, is it going to be a ninja versus samurai thing that I just have no knowledge of?"
Well, they are ninja. I mean, it's sort of ninja for summer, but I mean that's not fully on you. There's. But what was you had a specific issue with it,
Oh, I
or?
just I didn't understand what the deal was, what the fight was between the two
I mean,
brothers, whether it was that cultural stuff or not.
in a version of it that would have been much longer with dialogue, where it was at one point. So it's not fully on you. I mean, we're articulating a very nuanced thing with no words. But the father um, is a daimyo and wants to be a shogun. And I mean, funny enough, as it relates to Badlands, but um, uh, he has twins, and it would be that the firstborn, the first one out, no questions asked, would be the successor. Um, but he has the pressure of becoming, and doesn't want to just accept that. So he's bucking a cultural trend, and where it would just be firstborn, and he wants the best to be the successor, not just
Mm,
firstborn by default. So he's making them compete against each other. And the firstborn is Kenji, and the one that loses in that competition. So in the shame of losing, even though he feels he was rightfully owed that, but he lost, and and didn't. I mean, he lost because he didn't want to fight. He didn't even want to. And his brother Kyoshi had that opportunity in front of him. There's the shots of the helmet being pulled back and being placed back. And he's like, holy shit, I actually do have a shot that my dad's taking away from me. I was given a shot that I never would have had before, and now it's being taken away from me. And that's why he charged him. But once again, this is all. I mean, I'm delighted when people do pick up. I mean, no one gets to, like, he's daimyo, wants to be shogun, of course. But like, just in terms of that specific tradition, I don't fault you for not getting it, and
okay.
I'm delighted when people do, and I'm heartened that so many have. Um, but yeah, and but yeah, so that does that
Yeah, that ties it
resonate,
up.
or yeah.
So he ran away rather than was exiled or something.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit open to interpretation, but in my heart, he's out of the shame of it all, runs away,
Hmm.
and then
I
starts training to win, not by default, but by earning it in his head.
okay.
Yeah.
I love the interpretation of the Predator in that short. The
Hmm.
sort of feral-esque interpretation of him. Oh,
Mm.
that moment had that short had probably some of my favorite visuals from the entire anthology in there. You know, the gargoyle-esque sort of stuff, the very
Mhm,
shadow.
mhm, mhm. So cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that too.
And the next question is also Killer of Killers,
Yeah,
and also to do with you doing something absolutely wild that none of us really expected, and that was the World War II portion of the film. So this is another
yeah.
question from who says, you pop back on any Facebook group, any Discord server, any message board going back to the advent of internet, and you'll find people going on about wanting a Predator film set in World War II.
Mm,
Absolutely on the bucket list of all Predator fans. And then you give it us in such a unique way with the dogfighting.
mhm.
So Calum asks if you knew that going into the third segment of the film, you wanted to give the audience something completely different to the previous two. So was that just born of trying to differentiate from the previous two, or was this specific interpretation something you'd wanted to see for a while?
Not for a while. It was wanting. It was trying to think of what could I do in World War II. What could I do with soldierdom? Period. And it could have been modern, or but modern soldier. But I was, but Predator is soldier, so okay, prior to, and then and World War II, and it's like, oh, as you guys heard me say about, even Badlands, like Predator versus Nazis, is that the move? And then who's my protagonist in that? Is it a Nazi? Is it an ally who's dealing with Nazis? And he's, like, what, and then what is that
How
fight with those like it's kind of like Predator 1 all over again, just with different times guns and like
how far into that did you get
no,
as a
just
concept?
me, just as it is right now. Just me in the shower, me in the drive, just like you guys thinking of me playing video games and me watching movies, just like yeah, I wonder. My wife getting annoyed that we're mid conversation. I'm just like suddenly like staring off in the distance. Um, me just thinking. Um, and then
So that wasn't
suddenly
something you took to Steve Aspel or anything. That was
no, no,
long
no,
long
no, no,
gone.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
No. Uh, and then I had what I thought was absolutely delightful, which was, oh my gosh, yeah, what if he never leaves his ship? What if it's ship to ship? It's the same idea. He's hunting the alphas, he's hunting the best. The first thought was like Red Baron, because like that's like this iconic alpha. And I just felt like that aircraft, there's no wiggle room for like you can't. But with the aircraft that we have in the World War II, it's like okay, they could stand a fighting chance, and if we say that he kind of tries to meet people on their own terms as best, which is once again I go to cheater or not cheater. He's like they're. I mean, Predator 1, I guess, if you're just using that as the sole piece of, um, but he has a nuclear bomb. He's not just going there and lighting a nuclear bomb and exploding. He is hunting. He is using his version of what they use anyway. So there's some honor in that. Or I'm with
Or
you. Like
challenge, or
or
challenge in
challenge.
that.
Yeah, or challenge. No, absolutely, absolutely. That's all. But there's like respect.
Hmm.
There's respect regardless. Anyway, so yeah, man, dogfighting a plane. That became an absolute dream for me. Was figuring that out. There's of course like one brief sequence in Independence Day, where but I wanted to like really figure out how to not repeat that and to go whole hog and really dive into how would the predator hunt from the air, and how would someone be able to survive, um, what that would be.
So, believe it or not, there have been times when we've been asked if we ever get sick of Alien and Predator. There are times we've had to stop and think about that, but the answer is ultimately always no. But we know sometimes with creatives that get into a successful franchise, there can be a pull from the studio to keep doing more, and for some directors, a personal pull to do something else entirely. So, with three Predator successful movies under your belt now, are you feeling a drive to keep going? Is the mysterious third project, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, still on the horizon, or is there a well-deserved break in order in favor of other projects?
All things are true. I'm definitely not going to only make Predator movies. I'm very excited about the same things I've been excited about my whole life. All the different kinds of movies I've been trying to make. I'm very lucky that I found a franchise in which I can tell really bold original stories within. Um, and I I also find myself lucky in that this franchise, because of the unique facets of the predator creature, um, character, uh, I can tell stories that have thematic weight. Would not be the case with a different kind of monster creature, or wouldn't be the one that speaks to me the most. These telling like underdog stories, characters trying to prove themselves. So I definitely I have vision for more predator films. Um, for sure, and other kinds of films in the universe, but um, and also want to make original non-predator related movies too. So um, I'll hopefully have a chance to get to every single one of them.
Well, whatever you got coming next, we look forward to seeing it.
Awesome.
Okay, let's give him some quick elevator pitches. Predators versus Cloning Marines. A Monarch style thing where it's OWF tracking predators. Any for you, Adam? Quickly.
Well, the dogfighting, I mean, Ace Combat 8's coming up. We could have Predator dogfighting DLC. I mean, if you want to make it more. Yeah. And
But
AVP, I mean, how many times have you been asked about AVP on the press circuit? I'm sure, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that's in the studio's sights eventually. So
What yeah, are those it for you, Aaron? And but both you guys, what is the thing you want the most next?
oh, AVP. I mean, it's been 20 years, like for sure that's ready to come back, you know.
you s- you see, there's one thing I really want
Yeah.
because I think it's been unfair that we haven't had it yet.
Okay, I like where this is going. Yes.
No, because I also think it's unfair to you because I know, or unappealing to you, shall I say?
Well,
Because I
okay,
know
say it anyway though. Never know.
I want that goddamn version of Peter
Oh,
Briggs as AVP.
the wooden prison.
No, no, no.
Oh, of AVP, not
Yeah,
Alien
of
3.
AVP. So it was an adaptation of the comic of
I
the
see.
original. So I know that's not appealing to you,
Yeah.
but that's a little part of me has always wanted that because that's always been far better than any of the films that we've got. And I think, Dan, you have opened up a massive gate that I hope you use a lot more. I hope other filmmakers come in and use, and that is the animated things. I want
Yeah.
to see some stylish adaptations of the Peter Briggs thing. I want to see some
Mm.
wild, your Nazi thing. Give me
Mhm.
a Nazi thing as an animated feature. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I'd like to think it's a bit cheaper than than
Yeah.
your big ones, but I
I
really want that used.
loved working animation. So that's definitely, still on the agenda is to make more animated stuff.
Otherwise, it's like what we said earlier. I really want to see a serious attempt at doing Predator as a horror,
Yeah.
as a genuine fearful horror.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, just an AVP, just an
Yeah.
AVP. Outside of that,
I hear you.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I hear
agreed
you.
on the Predator horror, but you got me thinking again. Like we do have kind of a tease at the end of Badlands. Do you feel like there's more story to tell with Deck and Thea, or do you think that was just a fun little thing at the end and their story's kind of concluded?
I think there's more. Cool. There's once again, both things are true. Just like the end of Terminator was like, what a beautiful end to that story. But also, there could be, I think both things are true. That if that were to be the end, it's super fun. Um, but also, uh, I think there's definitely other things to do with that group. Yeah,
so sorry, I've got a couple more actually,
yeah, that's fine.
and it's largely inspired by your willingness to just go fucking out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, so it'd be two things because I said this in the past. So I wanted to see an AVP again. I always go to animated for the wild things. An
Mhm.
AVP where it's just no dialogue, no narration, just a single alien and a single predator,
Yeah,
entirely visual storytelling.
yeah,
And I go to animated because I like to think of the crazy wild, truly crazy stylized Japanese kind of anime stuff. And in the same vein, Predator and an alien, not a capital A alien, but just
right. Not a
another
xenomorph.
yeah, just another
Even though
wild.
I know you think that they could all be, they're all, but
Yes, all aliens are xenomorphs.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, just another civilized alien being hunted by a predator.
yeah.
And again, this is all the kind of stuff I've always wanted. And Killers just opens
We
this
we
up to me.
we we share in many of those desires. So yeah,
Good,
cool.
good.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry to throw our entire wish list at you there, Dan. But
No, I'm desperate to hear it. I'm desperate. I'm desperate.
Um,
To hear. Yeah,
so we have one last question, Dan.
yeah.
It's the most important of the lot so far. What did your mum think of Badlands?
It's funny. I'm glad that you asked. She didn't. uh, Not the reaction that I expected. I mean, she got really hung up on thinking there was some coded things that I was dealing with within our
With her.
family.
Oh,
She got really, even though I had a whole speech. Were you guys at the? No. I had at our premiere. I had a whole speech because my parents were there. I was like, just need to say in front of this whole now, the family relationships in this movie are not based on mine. But she still got a little hung up, and my dad even had a little like, I think there's like it's like for like teenagers probably really like that movie. Like they it didn't, but it doesn't take away what you're referring to, which is like the thing in my mind of like I got to make a movie that my mom would love too, because I still hold that sacred, and um I think she missed some of what I was trying to say thematically with the movie. Um but they, I mean, of course they appreciated it and they love and support me, but it didn't resonate as much as Prey did for my mom, which is totally understandable also.
oh man, I'm kind of wounded. I'm kind of wounded for you there, anyway. But
No, it's all good. It's all good.
yeah, that's it. We tapped out.
Well,
We're so
guys,
sorry.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and for the people that are listening. Thank you guys for contributing to the site, and I read all of it. I disagree vehemently with most of what you guys think and feel. No. But I agree with so much of what you think and feel, and it fuels a lot of what we do, and hopefully you understand when I make something that you don't like. It's because I can't please you all. Um, and if you were in my shoes, you'd be making something that would please, what your instincts are. But I really couldn't do it without all the passion and create creative instincts and information that you guys and everyone on your site provides. So um thank you for doing what you guys do.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan,
you.
and
No.
thank you so much for your time. I mean, I think this is the first time we've had a returning director on our podcast, and this definitely
Ha
takes the cake for the longest conversation we've had with one. So we
Awesome.
really appreciate your time and joining
Awesome.
us on here.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And that was our chat with Dan. And I think I cut it out of the interview, but I just want to also mention at one point Dan does say to us about us continuing to be honest and not necessarily, we're always genuine, but to be honest and frank with our opinions of stuff. He made it clear to us he does listen to our show, and it was like, if you don't like something, you should, you need to be telling us, because that's how they get to develop and learn. And I just want to make sure that is said on here, that Dan was so interested in making sure that we knew. Don't fear, don't fear censoring yourself when talking about the things that he's making. And I don't think we do. I think we're good, aren't we, Adam?
I think so, and yeah, that's a great mindset to have as a creative. I think you chart your own course, but you have to be willing to be open to feedback, and we try and be civil with our feedback. But and our perspective as fans, I try to make that clear too, is like going to be different from mainstream audiences. Sometimes it's a different subset of opinion, and that's usually where we're coming at things from.
Yeah. Though sometimes I do have to wonder about that angle as well.
Sometimes we have to check ourselves with that angle, for sure.
Genuinely thankful to Dan for joining us and being able to talk to us so openly.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to speak to him again sometime down the line for another
AVP.
I think the next Predator is more likely than an
Yeah.
AVP.
Probably another Predator. Yeah, but I mean, I couldn't help myself when he was like, "What do you guys want to see with Predator?" I might have gone a little far with the Ace Combat, which is I have to keep in mind, like, oh, he's like, yes, he's the overseer of the franchise, but he's probably more so just doing the movies and shows and not the licensing stuff. But
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one who wanted that, because I saw on Reddit someone after Killer of Killers said the same thing about the dogfighting scene, and they were like, oh, I'm a huge Ace Combat fan, I'd love to see that in a Predator game. And I was like, yes, make it happen.
I'm not sure that one's quite in Dan's realm. I think somebody had asked us to ask him about remastering Concrete Jungle, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to fit this one in, and I don't think it's it's something he can do.
You just
But
control everything in the Predator franchise
yeah.
now, right, Dan?
Oh, well, in that case, Dan, can we have an open world, an open galaxy Predator RPG, please? But no, seriously, remaster Predator Concrete Jungle.
Yes.
Although I'd still rather have a new thing than a remaster. But anyway.
There can be both. Why not both?
Yeah, but if it's one or the other, then I'll take the new
It doesn't
thing.
have to be.
Yeah, but it's the realistic choice.
Video games need to be preserved, my friend.
It's on my shelf behind me, and I have a console.
Yeah, but that's not easily accessible for most people.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's 2p on eBay, and the consoles are like £30. But sure, Adam. I think just a tangent already. Video game preservation is important, but I think it's more of a struggle now. Where your game lives on a server somewhere else that you can't play if somebody shuts it down. When it comes to things that I can physically own and play without an internet connection, that's not so scary to me. It's like the Wildlands thing where we can't go play that now. We just can't. But at Concrete Jungle, I can always go play. I can play it on my computer. Yeah. Pick your battles, nice. Adam. Pick your battles.
It's nice to see some companies still doing that, like Aspire and Limited Run, like even their recent Tomb Raider remasters and things like that. They'll release a physical version. I just got myself a Nintendo Switch too, and yes, it's great that they have really thorough backwards compatibility that they're constantly updating, but it's still dependent on your subscription for them. So that is a whole thing. We should do just a retro Alien Predator games podcast one of these days. That might be a good topic.
Given how long we talk about them when we do them specifically, I think that'd be a very long fucking episode. But no, I mean, we've had some good retrospectives recently, Concrete Jungle last year, Extinction the year before, went maybe P2 developers on. I'd still like to get some trilogy people on.
Yeah, we're really tangenting, aren't we?
Yeah, but we've really gone for it.
Dan said he was interested in a Predator video game, so yes, I would love to see him do that. That would be awesome. Indeed. We need more Predator games to catch up to Alien.
I don't think that'll ever happen, but more Predator games, please. Anyway, Adam, where can people go find out about us if they don't know who we are and have come to listen to Dan?
Well, if you don't know who we are AVP Galaxy, or Alien vs. Predator Galaxy.net. We are the oldest and largest Alien, Predator, AVP, and Prometheus, I guess, fan site on the internet, around since 2002. And we cover all the latest happenings of the franchises, as well as we have a database of a lot of the information of the franchises. Check us out on our main hub of activity, which is our website, avpgalaxy.net. We are also on all the major social channels: Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and now TikTok, and of course, YouTube, if you're listening to this. A big thank you, as usual, to our Patreon supporters who help support what we do here at AVP Galaxy. If you'd like to check that out, patreon.com/AVP Galaxy.
And as of recording, I just released our next episode of Genetic Memory, which is a Patreon exclusive side podcast where we discuss tangentially related things to Alien and Predator. So over the years, we've discussed things like Galaxy of Terror, Without Warning, and the one that we've just released was Death of a Unicorn, which was surprisingly related to Alien, which, when it was suggested, I was like, how's this going to work? But yeah, we like to go talk about things like that. So
we are into other things that are not Alien and Predator on occasion. So
yeah, but it still ended up being quite thematically tied to Alien with multiple references.
Yeah, we still try and make it things we think fellow fans might also be into, be them sci-fi, horror, gaming, things like that.
Indeed. But anyway, This has been Corporal Hicks.
And RidgeTop.
Get into the chopper.